This is our man. NSS class assassin from the organization. He was eliminated because he broke free from their brainwashing. Just when you thought it was over, the author said, nope, and he was immediately reincarnated as a baby. But when his maternal grandfather walked in, an extremely powerful pressure emanated, surprising even a high-level assassin like him. It turns out this baby is the young master of the most powerful family on the continent, and the grandfather before him is none other than the King of Destruction. Feeling that his family background wasn't enough of an advantage, he had to start training before he could even walk. At the age of 2, he had already become the family's genius, proficient in magic and… Well, let's not drag this on. Let's begin. Whether it was the biting cold wind late at night, the moonlight peeking through the high clouds, or the senses of a seasoned assassin, they all whispered the same thing. Under the dark night, the bright moon shone upon a magnificent architectural area. Here, a man in a black, hooded robe was kneeling. He was receiving praise from his master. Once again, you've done well. The young man looked up, his eyes flashing with a deep coldness, combined with a soulless expression like that of a dead man. He replied, thank you, Lord Duress. This was the name of the master standing before him. This man had long, blue hair that seemed to glow brilliantly in the bright moonlight. He also possessed cold eyes, but hidden within them was the distinct nobility of a lord. He was Duress Robert. They said he would die at this man's hands tonight. Lord Duress spoke, you have shown me a result worthy of the position of Shadow Leader. Thanks to your efforts, our family has been able to progress significantly. The man in black closed his eyes and replied, I only did what I had to do, my lord. I am truly curious. Lord Duress asked with a smile, do you believe that a shadow needs freedom? This question was aimed at Ron with a hidden meaning. Ron remained serious and replied, the shadow unit only needs to carry out the master's orders. We do not possess thoughts, emotions, or a heart. Good, Duress nodded, so you know that well. But if you know that, he continued in a slow voice, then why did you dare to act on your own? The last words were accompanied by a terrifying pressure that constricted the air, making Ron feel breathless. He glared at his subordinate with sharp eyes and continued, and how did you manage to break free from the brainwashing? Ron broke into a cold sweat. How? How did he know about that? The brainwashing was House Robert's way of optimizing its assassination team, the Shadow, by kidnapping or buying children and turning them into assassins who would devote their entire lives to carrying out dirty work for the Robert family. In other words, they raised loyal dogs for the family. I was also brainwashed, but thanks to a chance encounter during a mission, I was able to remove the shackles that imprisoned me. But how could he know that I was no longer brainwashed? Ron asked bluntly, how did you know, my lord? Lord Duress raised his hand and replied, among all the assassins, including you, there are 2 chains that bind your necks. The first is the brainwashing, which you somehow managed to escape. And the second, at this point, he snapped his fingers, is this. Then, a pain shot through Ron's chest. In an instant, Ron coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Finally unable to bear it, Ron fell to his knees, blood pouring from his body like a fountain. What is this pain? Ron clutched his chest, the pain not subsiding but intensifying, feeling as if his heart was being sawed apart. Duress smirked and explained, it's a rage worm. Even though Ron heard the answer, he still couldn't understand what it was. The rage worm is an insect that has been implanted in your body. It is still obeying my command, and is gradually eating away at your heart. The worst kind of dark magic is one that can even read the emotions of a slave. Was the brainwashing alone not enough for you that you had to make me consume a rage worm too? And you still act so high and mighty after doing such things. Ron gritted his teeth in pain and cursed, you truly are a despicable man. Duress burst out laughing. That's called being cautious, not despicable. Don't forget, you were able to escape the brainwashing. People say that everyone wears a mask, it's just that my mask is a little thicker and more special than others. He said this with a fake smile still on his lips. Ron wished he could bite the man in front of him to death. Damn you, Robert. I was kidnapped at an age where I could barely remember anything. Then I was raised as a hunting dog and assassin for the Robert family. Even when I became the Shadow Leader, I lived without a heart or emotions. But thanks to a fortunate encounter, I was able to learn a technique called the Ring of Fire. That technique, which was proven to be a special ability of the continent's strongest swordsman from long ago, helped me escape the brainwashing. I thought I could finally escape the Shadow unit and dreamed of freedom. I finally had hope. So why is death, not freedom, waiting for me at the end of the road? What sin have I committed? Why must I die such a meaningless death? As his life seemed to fade, Ron lamented his unfortunate fate. He clenched his jaw and mustered all his remaining strength. Ron slammed his fist on the ground. Damn it, I can't let things end like this. If I'm going to die here anyway. Ron clutched his chest, trying to use all his remaining strength to stand up. Even Duress was surprised by this action. How can you stand up in that condition? Ron, without a word, crouched into a stance, a faint purple energy appearing around his body. He told himself, if this is my end, I will take his hand or at least wound him. Before I die. In an instant, Ron's eyes seemed to glow. Ah, he shouted and lunged forward. I will not die a pathetic death. Ron transformed into a bolt of lightning, striking directly at Lord Duress. Unflustered, he calmly raised his hand and drew his weapon. Then, Ron only saw Duress swing his arm. In the next second, his head was severed from his neck, falling to the ground with a thud. Duress stood silently, looking at the corpse of his subordinate. His eyes were filled with mixed emotions. Even if I blocked that blow, although he was just trash, he not only escaped the brainwashing, but he could also endure the pain from the rage worm and attack me. Duress exclaimed, how long has it been? How many years has it been since I was last injured? Duress raised his right hand. On the back of his hand was a cut several centimeters deep, with blood flowing out. To be bitten by a hunting dog that I trained myself. Unbelievable. But there's no need to worry about him now, because he is dead. Duress glanced at Ron's head and clicked his tongue. Dispose of him, he ordered. Immediately, several more men in black appeared beside Ron's body. The last image that appeared in Ron's lifeless eyes was the back of Lord Duress. He was considered one of the strongest warriors on the entire continent. My defeat was inevitable. He is the strong, and I am the weak, how could I resist? Duress walked forward, where a gate emitting a dim light now stood. Ron died unreconciled. But I do not accept it. I regret living this life for no reason. I regret being played by that man Duress my entire life. And I deeply regret not being able to complete the Ring of Fire. Whether it's a god or even a demon, anyone will do. So please, do something and give me a chance to take revenge on Duress. Suddenly, a pendant that fell next to Ron's corpse emitted a sparkling light. Then, a strange system voice appeared in Ron's mind. You have been chosen by Wrath. Wrath will enter your body. The body is dead, an error has occurred. Then, the space blurred and then brightened, shifting to a scene of birds flying and butterflies fluttering under the sun. Sunshine, look at mommy, my sunshine. In front of the main character was a blonde woman, holding a baby toy and shaking it, smiling gently as she could. A baby's hand reached up, accompanied by babbling sounds. A bath. Good job, now what is this? A bow. This newborn baby had blonde hair and red eyes, looking incredibly innocent and adorable. The woman, seeing her son trying to talk, couldn't help but hug him tightly. Oh, my adorable sunshine, who do you take after to be so cute? The baby responded with meaningless words, but a sense of helplessness could be seen in them. This baby is the main character. I still haven't gotten used to this. The woman holding me is Sylvia. Sylvia picked up the baby and said playfully, let's go, mommy. The baby just raised his eyebrows, looking troubled. I still can't believe I've been reincarnated as this woman's child, although I still retain my memories from my past life as an assassin. At first, I thought this was a dream and slept for 100 days straight. However, no matter how much I slept, I finally accepted the fact that I had been reborn. At that time, Ron was still skeptical. Why haven't I woken up yet? Back in the present, he was being carried by his mother to the window to bask in the sun. Sylvia looked down at the courtyard and smiled. The weather is beautiful today, isn't it, son? I hope the Lord returns soon. Sylvia's lips curved as she said, that way, he can give you a beautiful name. Ron looked up, thinking it was a bit strange to be called by the nickname Sunshine. But not seeing his own child for 100 days, he must be very busy. Ron wanted to say something, but all that came out was a bow. I haven't been able to discover much since I was reincarnated, but at least I know that this is a rather wealthy family, belonging to the upper class. This was evident from the interior and architectural style of the place where he lived. I guess being reborn into a powerful and wealthy family is better than a mediocre one because I need to take revenge. One thing I still remember clearly is the indignation and hatred I felt in my heart before I died. But I need to be patient. Because so far, I've only been in this room. I don't know where this is, I don't know what my position is, or what situation I'm in. Furthermore, because I haven't been able to complete the Ring of Fire technique, I must endure patiently. Unconsciously, Ron brought his hands together as if to practice the Ring of Fire. I was once called the greatest assassin of the Robert family. To wait for the day I can take revenge on Duress, I can suppress my emotions and desires until the time is right. But what made me even more curious was the splendor and size of this mansion. It was more than just upper class. While relaxing, Ron suddenly noticed someone outside the door. A maid rushed in, flustered. Lady Sylvia, the Lord is returning, the girl announced. Sylvia seemed surprised. Father is. Ron thought to himself, Father? Does that mean the Lord is my grandfather? Sylvia looked confused. What should we prepare? The maid replied, it's too late, my lady, he's already at the door. Sylvia sighed. Oh no. Suddenly, an invisible pressure enveloped everyone. Sylvia and the maid turned their faces towards the door, waiting. Ron's face turned pale. What the hell is this presence? From outside the door, A clear voice rang out, announcing the return of the Lord. The door swung open, revealing only a blinding light, followed by the silhouette of a great figure. He slowly walked forward. Ron seemed to recognize who this was to be able to exert such pressure with his mere presence. The man wore a large cloak, with epaulets on both shoulders. Ron blurted out, "Ah." He frowned. "It can't be. If I'm not mistaken, this person is that man." Arriving in front of Sylvia, she froze. "Father?" The man asked in a gentle voice, "Is this the child?" When Ron saw him, he became even more certain of his speculation. "I'm sure of it." An elderly man with hair the color of the sun, eyes the fiery red of flames, and a face colder than ice. The master of the greatest family on the continent, the king of destruction of the north, Glenn Zeehart. Glenn carefully observed his grandson, as if about to say something. It seems that somehow, the boy Ron thought, I have been reborn into the most powerful family on the continent. Do you want to hold him? A voice asked. Truly a difficult fate. Glenn took his grandson and then declared, from this day on, the boy's name is Ron. Just as the name implies, Canis, live quietly and exist quietly like a shadow, as if you are not here. Ron's eyes widened as he looked at him. After overcoming life and death, I also have a new name. After naming his grandson, Glenn immediately left. Ron, it wasn't until midnight that Ron opened his eyes and looked around. They must be asleep by now. He sat up. It's been a boring 100 days, but now I have a chance. I get sleepy out of nowhere from time to time, and whenever I wake up, Sylvia is by my side. I can't even control my ma or anything. At least it's a relief that I can sleep alone in the crib. Alright, let's begin. Ron took a deep breath and threw off the blanket. Condensed the ring of fire. Ron brought his palms together, and his body began to emit a fiery aura. Ordinary martial artists on the continent use breathing to allow mana from nature, and their aura to accumulate in their energy center. The ring of fire, obtained through special catalysts, is different. Just like a mage creates a mana circle, it creates a circle around the heart. This increases stamina, and stimulates the body's growth while also enhancing one's will and mana affinity. Therefore, this method allows a person to obtain the ideal conditions to become a warrior. It's an ultimate technique. Another advantage is that even a genius like him wouldn't be able to detect the existence of the ring of fire. Above all, if I train my body and mind using the ring of fire and make his swordsmanship my own, then avenging Duras Robert will no longer be a distant dream. Perhaps it's due to this body's constitution that my mana circuit is so cold. Ron looked at his cold palms and felt puzzled. This is why my entire body is still cold even if I sleep for 20 hours or more. He tried to analyze it. A mana blockage. Or is it in the 9 sections? This is serious. At this rate, I'll die from the cold energy blocking my magic circuit. I need to clear the blockage with the ring of fire. On the other hand, it would be a waste to get rid of this bone-chilling cold. I'll combine it with the heat flow in my body and circulate them. It's unknown how much time passed, but the moon had risen. Alright, it might be a bit slow, but it's quite stable. Next, Ron started to nod off, then rolled into bed and fell into a deep sleep. Just a little bit of training, and I'm already tired. Oh no, I can't. He tried to open his eyes but couldn't anymore. Just like that, Ron slept soundly, unaware that his grandfather had secretly come to check on him. He placed his hand a few centimeters away from his grandson's body to do something. And just like that, the sun rose again. The baby Ron started crawling on the floor, babbling a few meaningless words. Sylvia was overjoyed to see this. Our Ron is so cute. Crawl some more, my child. Ron was complaining inwardly. Playing with this mother is so tiring. My soul is an adult, but I'm forced to act like a baby. I'm about to die. A moment later, Sylvia picked up Ron again and smiled brightly. Is there anything Ron can't do? So cute, so cute. Ron whispered in distress. I'd rather be cold. Our cute baby Ron is still playing with mommy. A man's voice came from outside the door. Is Sylvia here? As soon as she heard this voice, Sylvia exclaimed. A old man. No, Saint. The newcomer was an old man with white hair and a beard, wearing a long gray robe. The moment he saw Sylvia, he beamed. What saint? Just call me old man. As soon as Ron saw him, he recognized the identity of the newcomer. This person is the saint of healing. His holy power and healing arts are said to be the best on the continent. He's the most famous healer on the continent, but his wandering nature makes meeting him as difficult as ascending to heaven. The old man's eyes widened when he saw the baby. I was wandering around and came to visit you since I heard you just had a child. Is this him? Ah, yes, Sylvia replied. The old man happily took Ron and lifted him high. Oh, blonde hair and red eyes. Just like you. Sylvia was extremely proud. Yes, aren't they beautiful? The old man looked at the baby intently and praised, he's a cute boy, different from Glenn, completely different. So what's this baby's name? Sylvia stammered, his name is Ron. The old man frowned upon hearing those two words. You didn't intentionally name him with the meaning of darkness, did you? Sylvia replied sadly. That's right. The old man looked puzzled. Naming a child darkness. What was Glenn thinking? Ron was also carefully assessing the person in front of him. He doesn't look like his title at all. There must be some connection between them. I've heard that the King of Destruction of the North and the Saint of Healing are friends, but if that's true. Ron, let this old man take a look at you. The old man turned to Ron and smiled. Then, he placed his right hand on Ron's stomach. A faint yellow light emanated from his hand and spread throughout Ron's body. Sylvia waited nervously for the result. The Saint of Healing's eyebrows furrowed deeper and deeper. The boy's condition is not good. Seeing his expression, Sylvia also wondered. Is there a problem with him? He didn't hide it. This child has the curse of frost within him. His mana circuit is blocked by shards of ice. Putting aside whether he can become a swordsman in the future, he explained patiently and handed the child back to Sylvia. Sylvia held her son in her arms, still stunned by the bad news she had received. If he is not treated, he will die. At this rate, he won't live for long. Sylvia's face turned pale, and she murmured, You're lying. The old man said sadly, I will give you some medicine to sustain him. Saint, please excuse me. Just then, a servant rushed in to announce. The master is calling for you. I will show you the way. The Saint of Healing nodded. I'll go after I am done here. The maid urged again. The master said to bring you immediately. He shook his head. This guy still has terrible timing. I understand, I'll go now. Unable to resist, he followed the maid. After hearing the Saint of Healing's words, Ron was puzzled. Now I know, it's the curse of frost, huh? Knowing the name doesn't change anything. Don't tell me it's because of the ring of fire. While he was thinking, a teardrop fell on Ron's cheek. Sylvia was trembling uncontrollably and said, It's a lie. She looked at the baby in her arms, her own flesh and blood, in tears. She tried to wipe away her tears. I can't lose you like this. Who said you're going to die? That's nonsense. I'll do anything to heal you. Sylvia tensed up and shouted. Your mother will do whatever it takes. You can't go. Ron, don't be sick. Ron focused his observation. What is this feeling? My heart aches. It hurts. My whole body is tired. It hurts. I don't want to see this. Don't cry. A hand reached out to stroke Sylvia's face. This hand tried to wipe away her tears. Looking closely, it was her son's hand. The baby was trying to reach for Sylvia's face and then he babbled, Ma. These words struck Sylvia's soul. Meanwhile, Glenn and the Saint of Healing were discussing business when a noise came from outside the door. Lady Sylvia, you can't, please stop. Please. Glenn asked irritably, what's that noise? You can't. The maid tried to run after her and stop her, but Sylvia had already entered the room. Lady Sylvia, the master is. Glenn shouted angrily, what is this insolence? This clumsy, shameful child. He glared at his daughter. Sylvia knelt on the ground. I beg you, father. Please save Ron. Please save Ron. Sylvia repeated once more, interrupting the conversation of the elders. She bowed her head, her cheeks stained with tears. You must have known about his condition. But he is everything to me. Please save my Ron. Glenn replied sternly. He will certainly not be able to survive as a warrior. Why should I save a child who will be of no use to the family? Sylvia tried to argue. Isn't he your grandson? Glenn said angrily, the grandson you brought back after running away from home. The only thing I will do is let him bear the Sieghart name. Consider that the small piece of luck I'm giving him. But that will be all. Sylvia cried her eyes out. Father. Glenn snorted and shouted. I have nothing more to say. Take her out. At his words, two officers immediately dragged Sylvia out. Father, please save Ron. Sylvia cried out desperately. Please, Ron. But her ruthless father still pushed her out of the room, without a shred of compassion. It wasn't until the room was quiet again that the Saint of Healing looked out the door. He sighed, you're as stubborn as ever. Is it so hard to be honest? Why did you do that when you were the one who asked me to check on your grandson? The Saint of Healing frowned, and turned to the person opposite him. Glenn silently took a sip of tea, and got straight to the point. Be quiet. Tell me the details of the child's illness. Only then did the Saint of Healing explain. As I said, his 9 mana circuits are blocked by the cold, and as he gets older, his condition will become more dangerous. Since you have pushed back the cold with your aura, there will be no problem. But as I said, your grandson will not be able to become a warrior. Hearing this, Glenn's expression did not change. He took another sip of tea, and replied, as long as he's alive, that doesn't matter. The Saint of Healing's lips curved into a smile as he asked, You're acting completely different from before. I guess you still love your grandson, right? He changed the subject. But if you were going to do that, why did you name your grandson Ron? There are so many good names, so why that one? Glenn picked up his teacup, paused before drinking, and answered the Saint of Healing's question. Ron doesn't just mean shadow. He stared into the reflection in the tea, lost in thought before continuing. 1,000 years ago, it had a completely opposite meaning. Back at the annex where mother and son lived, Sylvia was currently feeding Ron medicine. Here you go, honey. This is the divine medicine the Saint of Healing gave you. It's a little bitter, but please try to bear with it. Ron took the medicine. Sylvia and the maid Helen squeezed their eyes shut, anticipating a loud cry from the child. But when she peeked her eyes open, she was surprised to see her son not only wasn't crying, but he seemed to be asking for more. Both she and the maid were overcome with joy. He swallowed it. Ron endured the bitterness and drank it. Helen, yes, even though the medicine is very bitter for a child, he must understand your heart, my lady. Sylvia's eyes filled with tears as she hugged her son emotionally. In truth, Ron understood the situation. It was a bit bitter, but a divine, fire attribute medicine was exactly what he needed right now. The heat would push back the cold from the curse of frost in his mana circuits. He stared intently at his mother, which made Sylvia curious. Do you understand my feelings? Would you like some more divine medicine? Time flew by, and 2 years had passed since I started my training and taking the divine medicine. Thanks to them, I was able to achieve the Ring of Fire much faster. My Ring of Fire has reached 1 star. The 2-year-old Ron, lying in his crib, could now envelop his hand in flames with just a slight exertion of will. This was clearly the result of what he called the Ring of Fire. Another 2 years of persistent training passed. My normal schedule consisted of playing with Sylvia and Helen in the morning, taking a nap, and then training at night. There probably isn't a busier baby on the entire continent. Time continued to pass, and I was now 5 years old. The 5-year-old Ron was sitting absent-mindedly, checking his system window, which clearly stated he had achieved the 2nd Ring of Fire. Your soul has become slightly stronger with the effect of the 2-star Ring of Fire. Mana has increased with the effect of the 2-star Ring of Fire. Willpower has increased with the effect of the 2-star Ring of Fire. Strength has increased with the effect of the 2-star Ring of Fire. Ron smiled as he read the information. He couldn't hide his joy. I finally did it. I've created the 2nd Ring of Fire. With the 2nd ring, the flame now spun in the shape of a cross. My sensitivity to mana has increased a little. It's all thanks to this message window. Suddenly, a girl's voice came from outside the door. Oh my, young master, you're awake. I'll take your clothes to be washed. It was the maid, Helen. Ron nodded. Yes, please do. Helen diligently bent down, gathered all the dirty clothes in the room, and took them away. Observing Helen's expression, Ron thought to himself, just as I thought, she can't see this message window. Previously, I had first seen this window and my status after achieving the 1st Ring of Fire. At first, I wasn't sure what it was, but I quickly realized it was a convenient system that allowed me to see my condition at a glance. Back then, the only benefits after achieving the 1st ring were a resistance to cold and poor stamina, nothing like the present. And based on Helen's reaction then, it seemed she couldn't see these messages. Ron placed a hand on his chin, worried. Even so, the poor constitution and curse of frost statuses haven't changed, even though I've reached 2 stars. I wonder how difficult it would have been to reach 2 stars without the fire attribute divine medicine. And it wasn't just the medicine. Sylvia, Helen, and the others in the annex had surely contributed over the past 5 years. Because they constantly checked if I was uncomfortable or sick, their care must have helped in some way. The more Ron thought about it, the more embarrassed he felt, scratching his head. He then let out a sigh and told himself, still, I'm only 5 years old. I still have plenty of time, no need to rush. The curse of frost is troublesome, and so is the poor stamina. That's why I get tired easily from just normal movements. However, in my past life, I was known as the best assassin, and now I even know the best training method, the Ring of Fire. With my experience as a foundation, as long as I can master the Ring of Fire, those negative conditions will completely disappear. Furthermore, if I learn his swordsmanship, I will definitely be able to kill Durus. Even so, I can't be rash. He is a candidate for the title of the continent's strongest. I can't afford to get excited about revenge this early. The number of people who can kill him can be counted on one hand. Even if it's slow, I must gradually increase my strength. Until the opportunity presents itself, then I will end it once and for all. So, I'll train a little more. While he was thinking, Sylvia entered. You're awake. Ron stared blankly. Sylvia was as youthful as ever, now with an added touch of nobility. She smiled at him. Do you remember I told you we had to go somewhere together? Get changed and ready, then come to the main building. Ron looked up at the sky and mumbled, is today that day? 6 kings and 5 demons maintained the balance of power on the continent. The Sieghart family, the family I was reborn into, is one of the 6 kings. The 6 kings bestow blessings, while the 5 demons threaten the peace. Besides them, other powers also have a judgment ceremony to decide if someone is good or evil. And today was the Sieghart's ceremony. After a long journey, the carriage finally arrived at a magnificent mansion. The inside was already filled with people, all of them nobles, and the atmosphere was bustling. It's been a while, hasn't it? This is the first time we've met since last year's judgment ceremony. It's because I was too busy with missions abroad. Are there any direct line descendants participating this year? I heard it's Karun's fourth son. I also heard that Sylvia. The crowd chatted naturally, eventually turning to the children of the families. What? Sylvia, that failure, really? Just then, Sylvia walked in and overheard the insult. Everyone's eyes turned towards her, and the atmosphere suddenly grew heavy. Some gazes were even hostile. Sylvia walked through the crowd, ignoring the scornful words aimed directly at her. So that's Sylvia's son. He's so small. I heard he's sick. The rumors must be true. How could he not be? He inherited the blood of a failure. Should I call it the bloodline of a failure? I can't believe she's allowed to set foot in here. Do we really need to perform a judgment ceremony for a failure's child? I really hope I don't have to see them again. Honestly, the standards have really dropped. Sylvia listened to every vicious word, even those aimed at her young son. Ron heard them but didn't understand. The direct line members are badmouthing me a lot. Is there something I don't know? I don't care about being insulted, but she truly is shameless. Ron frowned, feeling only pity for his mother. It's okay, Ron, his mother suddenly said. Ron looked up. Sylvia still wore a bright smile as she reminded him, just look at me. Ron looked down and tightly grasped his mother's hand. Just then, an announcement was made. The head of the house is entering. The entire hall fell silent. The sound of footsteps echoed from the entrance. Ron held his breath and looked in that direction. It's been a long time, probably a year. The person who entered was an old man with sparkling epaulets on his shoulders, and a thick cloak. He sat upon the throne placed in the center. He was Glenn Zihar. Glenn spoke. It seems everyone has arrived. No one said anything. He tapped his finger once. In the middle of the hall, a giant sword suddenly appeared, embedded in the ground. Ron felt the air grow heavy. Is that the judgment sword? Along with that, Glenn announced, begin the judgment ceremony. Ron was amazed internally. So that's the judgment sword. If you place your hand on it, it can tell you the extent of your talent with mana. An official next to Glenn began to announce. Let's begin. The first is Burin Zihar. From the balcony above, a boy stood up and shouted, present. This child then approached the sword and placed his hand on it. A child's skull is not fully formed at the top. When they turn 4, it begins to close and fuse together. After that, their ability to use mana will no longer change. That is why children are gathered to determine the extent of their mana talent in this judgment ceremony. As soon as the boy placed his hand on the sword, a brilliant light shone out, followed by a cool breeze that enveloped the sword. The people around them applauded. Oh, he has the wind attribute. Look, the whole sword is glowing. His mana quality is also top-notch. A prodigious talent, truly the son of Lord Karun. Glenn nodded in assessment. This attribute is not bad. Very suitable for a swordsman. You should focus on feeling the energy of the wind. Next is Runan Sulian from the vassal family, Sulian. From another corner, a white-haired girl quickly jumped down. Ron observed the girl and analyzed. I can see how this sword works. The light on the blade shows the purity of mana, while the mana attribute is shown at the pommel. Instantly, a bright white light enveloped the sword. Ron focused on the unfolding events. So this is how you determine others' talents, Zivard. The crowd on the other side began to cheer. Another genius from the Sulian house. It's not for nothing that she bears the Sulian name. She's on par with Lord Burin. Ron could only click his tongue. The people in this house are all obsessed with the word talent. I guess my result won't be good. Although I successfully reached the 2-star ring of fire, there is still a lot of cold energy from the curse of frost in my mana circuit. Either way, I don't care. Time passed. Until the official announced the last one is, needless to say. All eyes turned in one direction. Please step forward, the man said. Sylvia smiled at her son. Let's go, Ron. The boy replied, yes. In reality, he didn't expect much. He told himself to just check which attribute would be suitable for this body and which attribute he should develop in the future. Seeing Ron standing blankly, Sylvia thought he was scared and followed to guide him. Did you see what the other children did before? Just do the same. Ron nodded. Yes, I know. As Ron placed his hand on the sword, he felt it radiate an icy cold aura. Then, the sword began to emit a strange light like crystals. And then, with a boom, these crystals burst into flames, radiating intensely from Ron at the center. Ron was also surprised by the intensity. What is that light? In his vision, a strange scene suddenly appeared. A golden-haired man in a red cloak stood amidst countless giant monsters. What scene am I seeing? The monsters were glaring at the young man, seemingly wary of him. Ron stared blankly at the figure's back. Who is he? Then, the young man raised his sword to the sky, and from the sword, a terrifying thermal energy radiated. Then, this thermal energy was released when the sword was swung down, leading to an earth-shattering explosion. Ron immediately came to his senses. He then saw the strange scene unfolding before him. Why the stone sword? The murmurs of the crowd provided the answer for Ron. Look, the light hasn't even reached the halfway point of the sword. Glenn shouted, cutting them off, the judgment ceremony is over. You may all leave. The nobles of the various families left, each with a mocking smile at Ron's result. In another corner, a butler said to a young boy, Let's go, young Master Buren. The last person walked out, and the door slammed shut. The room was now empty except for Lord Glenn and the judgment sword. Glenn looked at his aide and said, I guess there's nothing to be done. His aide just bowed his head. My lord, I think that's the extent of the boy's abilities. In any case, I wasn't expecting anything from this child. Suddenly, a strange flame erupted from the sword. Even Glenn was startled. The flame instantly engulfed the entire room, as fierce as a raging wave. Glenn's eyes widened as he watched the stone sword emit a golden light like the sun. He remembered something he himself had almost forgotten. The aura that the first head of the Zeehart clan possessed was a formidable power, strong enough to harmonize even with demonic fire. Golden mana and golden flame. This brilliant golden mana had only ever appeared once. Glenn had read these lines in a rare book. Throughout the entire history of the Zeehart family, it was brilliantly beautiful with a dazzling golden sheen, just like what Glenn was witnessing. This brilliantly enveloping light was the golden flame. His mouth became dry as he mumbled, Ron. This grandson. Back with Ron. He was currently checking his status board. It was still the same, no title, statuses of Curse of Frost and poor stamina, reduced physical energy, reduced mana affinity, unknown attribute, and both Ring of Fire and Water resistance were at 2 stars. He clicked his tongue. Alright. It seems I'm about to reach the 3rd Ring of Fire. 7 years had passed since the first judgment ceremony. I was now 12 years old. With regular training, my 2 Rings of Fire were about to become 3. My water resistance had increased to 2 stars, and the phenomenon of cold spreading throughout my body was gone. So my limbs were no longer stiff. Of course, moving my body was still very difficult, but it was much better than before. At this moment, Ron was sitting in a field, lost in thought. If I can cure the Curse of Frost, my growth rate will be much faster. I need to start exercising too. Suddenly, someone called his name. Ron. It was his mother, Sylvia. You need to get ready. What are you doing here? Let's go, or we'll be late. Ron frowned. Yes. So it's time for me to participate in the second judgment ceremony. I'll probably have to see those strange things again. As before, he and his mother went to the family gathering place. Finally, Langley Sorter, you have worked hard. The judgment ceremony is now concluded. Ron was sitting on a chair like the other teenagers. Perhaps because only those from the collateral lines are here, things went faster than I thought. It wasn't until this moment that his grandfather called his name. Ron Zeehart. You must have received the order to participate in basic training as a member of the family. So why haven't you responded after a month? He questioned Ron, who didn't understand at all. What is he talking about? Basic training. Hearing this, Sylvia immediately stood up to explain. Father, Ron is different from the other children. He still has the Curse of Frost in his body, so training is still too much for him. Ron was surprised. Sylvia knew about this. This is the Zeehart domain. There are no exceptions or refusals from those who have received the Zeehart name, Glenn said with a stern face. If you can't walk, then crawl there and train. That is the spirit a Zeehart must have. Sylvia still tried to plead. No, please, father, give me some time. Glenn blurted out in anger. If you can't, are you planning to run away again? Taking that child with you? These words made Sylvia freeze. In this land, you can only live as a Zeehart. If you don't like it, then get out of here right now. The final words left Sylvia unable to retort. She was now remembering every cruel word that had been aimed at her before. What? Is she planning to run away again? This will be interesting. She doesn't even have an energy center or mana circuit to break anymore. I can't believe someone like that is a direct descendant. Ron looked up at his mother's desolate back. Now I understand. The reason Sylvia is treated this way is because she left this family. Sylvia had no aura despite having learned martial arts. That meant her energy center and mana circuit had been completely destroyed. Mother ran away from home, met my father, and married him. But after I was conceived, my father died, and she had no choice but to return home. Because she gave up her position in the direct line and has now returned, she receives treatment even lower than that of a member of a collateral branch. However, that is the perspective of others, and in their own situation. As Sylvia's son, I cannot bear to see my mother treated like this. Ron walked past Sylvia, causing her to see a glimpse of an old silhouette. By the time she realized it, Sylvia shouted, "Ron, what are you doing? Come back here. Young master, mother will handle this, so please." Ron ignored all these words and continued straight ahead. "It's all right, mother." These words surprised Sylvia. Ron stood before his grandfather and declared clearly, "As you command, I will participate in the training starting next month, just as you ordered." "But I didn't even know there was a training course." A man sitting next to him spoke up. "He is Ruin Ziehart of the Martial Hall. No matter what it's called, basic training is not at a level that a sick person can endure. You should withdraw immediately." Ron remained resolute. "I already bear the Ziehart name, so I will have to pay the price for it. I will participate in the training. Do you dare to tarnish the Ziehart name? Do you understand the gravity of mentioning the Ziehart name?" Glenn spoke slowly, his words containing no small amount of oppressive power. This power directly enveloped the young Ron. In an instant, sweat poured down his face, and a few drops of blood fell to the floor. It was blood from Ron's mouth. He also felt a chill down his spine, as if his flesh was being torn to shreds. Just a glare can affect me like this. It feels like my heart is being squeezed. It's affecting me even more than Doris Roberts' aura did. As Ron thought this, he clenched his fists tighter. Is this the warrior, the king of destruction of the north? Glenn saw Ron kneel. Sylvia and the maid rushed to support him. "My lord, Ron is still young, so he doesn't know what he's saying." Ruin also tried to intercede. "My lord, he is still just a child who knows nothing. Please withdraw the pressure you've placed on him." "I am speaking," Glenn repeated. "The pressure." He was emitting, not lessening at all. Ruin also broke out in a cold sweat from fear. "I apologize." Sylvia gritted her teeth against the pain, holding Ron tightly and begging. Father, Ron's health doesn't allow for training. Please, I beg you to withdraw the pressure." Ron's eyes were wide, and his mind was flashing back. Assassins are those who must live in the shadows, always closer to death than to life. They will never reveal themselves. Ron imagined the shadow of his past self standing, and watching his present self. Then, the past Ron patted the young Ron's shoulder and pushed him forward. "But now, I am no longer the assassin I used to be. I will not live in the shadows anymore." Just like that, after this push, the past Ron faded into the darkness, and the present Ron was brought into the sunlight. This was also an affirmation, an intersection between the past and the present, Ron's past life and this life. "I will not live like an assassin anymore." Ron bit his lip, his heart now resolved. "I am Ron Ziehart, and I will return Sylvia to her rightful place." Unknowingly, Ron had left his mother's embrace and moved towards Glenn. "No, I do not know. Because I grew up in an annex, not the main building. I do not know how arrogant the Ziehart name is. That is why I want to see for myself what this place called Ziehart is truly like." By participating in the training, Ron loudly replied to his grandfather's words. In his heart, he had already resolved that as Ron, he would protect Sylvia, the happiness, and the smiles of those precious to him. "I will definitely take it all back with my own hands." Glenn slowly asked again. "Do you mean you will judge the Ziehart clan through this basic training?" Ron's whole body trembled, but he still managed to answer. "Right now, that is the only way I can learn about the Ziehart clan. Then I will have to check everything to ensure that the instructors are fully prepared," Glenn added. The young Ron's breathing became heavier. "Those not to disappoint you." As soon as he heard his grandfather's final words, Ron couldn't bear it anymore and collapsed, unconscious. "In my past life, I was the best assassin, and now I have learned the continent's legend, the Ring of Fire. If I can utilize all the abilities from them, gaining a high position in the family is not impossible." Even as he fainted, Ron's mind was still thinking about what he had to do next. "I will show you how hard the pebble you look down on really is." The scene changes to a training ground, where a man is currently observing intently. Isn't that boy a patient who can't even move? The master of the martial hall, Karun Ziehart, couldn't believe the latest news. The supervisor also broke into a cold sweat as he reiterated, "Yes, only one or two maids overheard the conversation between the Saint of Healing and the head of the house. The young master is definitely very ill." Karun thought deeply. When I saw him before, his body wasn't normal either. How could he withstand my pressure? He placed a hand on his chin and mumbled, "Now that I think about it, Sylvia was once the most talented one." "Plant someone in the annex," he finally ordered his subordinate. "Yes, sire." As quickly as possible. As for Ron, he was currently jogging with his mother. "Ron, don't push yourself too hard." Ron was almost out of breath, panting heavily, taking in large gulps of air. He was unaware that Karun had already given a fatal order, report back everything that happens there. A while later, at the Ziehart No. 5 training ground, a resounding greeting echoed. "Let us welcome the visit of the clan head." "Welcome, my lord." The person who appeared here was Glenn Ziehart. Unexpectedly, in this very place, a young man was still sound asleep. Glenn approached the man and called out, "Stop pretending to be asleep. Get up, Rimmer." The long-haired young man indeed shot up immediately. Oh my, I can't believe it. You are the only person who has ever seen through my feigning sleep skill, Lord Clan Head. This man with the long hair was named Rimmer. The light sword, Rimmer. The instructors are running around sweating, yet you are relaxing here. Rimmer replied nonchalantly, they will naturally follow my orders. I use my head, while they do manual labor. It's only fair. It's been 50 years, yet you are still like a child, Glenn chided, but Rimmer just laughed it off. People die when they change. But I'm an elf. You came here for your youngest grandson. Didn't you? Rimmer guessed Glenn's purpose as soon as he saw him. Lady Sylvia also came to have a word with me, but I never expected the clan head himself to come like this. Glenn was surprised. Sylvia was here. Rimmer replied, she asked me not to let Ron get hurt. If you also have that intention, then perhaps your trip this time was a waste, clan head. You yourself said it. No one can interfere with the number 5 training ground. Not even you. Rimmer leaned back and spoke to Glenn with a frank attitude. Even if you are worried about your youngest grandson, I will make no exceptions. He repeated himself once more. Unexpectedly, Glenn said, of course. Do not reduce the training intensity. Increase it as you see fit, and eliminate the weak, he instructed carefully. Rimmer asked with concern, then your grandson might get expelled. Lord Clan Head, you mean? Rimmer seemed to have guessed something, covering his face with his hands and smiling brightly. Oh my, you love your grandchild more than I thought. Is it because you couldn't take proper care of Lady Sylvia that you're pouring all your affection onto that child? Glenn's embarrassment turned to anger. If you weren't my comrade in arms, I would have had your head. Don't go easy on the boy. And remember to clearly distinguish the talented from the untalented. Only keep those who meet the standard for training. Glenn repeated himself once more. Rimmer smiled and replied, then I will respectfully obey. Glenn turned to Lee. Yes, do as you wish. Am leaving. Rimmer smiled and saluted smartly. Yes, travel safely, Lord Clan Head. It wasn't until Glenn had left that Rimmer smiled to himself. Ron. I'm very curious about you. Returning to Ron, he was currently checking his status board. He had achieved the 3rd ring of fire, meaning he was now at 3 stars. All his stats had increased thanks to the effects of the 3-star ring of fire. Notably, one of the 9 strands of the Curse of Frost had disappeared. Ron read this and marveled, 3 stars is a completely different level. My body's perception has increased, and my mind is clearer than before. He remembered training with his mother by his side before. Why are you pushing yourself so hard on the very first day? It's just my nature, the young Ron had argued. Thinking back, it was thanks to Sylvia stopping him that his limb muscles had begun to develop without much difficulty. Furthermore, this magic status window had boosted his growth even more. But this is just the beginning. The Ziegart clan's training was famously arduous. 3 stars was just the necessary foundation to start as an apprentice in the family. One must have a solid enough foundation to build a tall house and survive the days to come. By showing superior performance, I will make those who once mocked me shut their mouths. And after all that, the sword demon Duras robber. I will not stop until I slit his throat. He hadn't been sitting for long when someone called his name. It was his mother again. She stood at the door and asked, why aren't you asleep yet? Ah, mother, Ron replied. Why have you come here at this hour? Sylvia sat on Ron's bed and answered, tomorrow you will go to the training ground to begin your basic training, right? I came because I have something to talk to you about. Do you really have to go? Sylvia asked. She confessed, actually, I still want to stop you. You always suppress it, no matter how much pain you're in. I don't know what I'll do if you get covered in injuries during training. It's not that I don't want you to go, but just 1 year. Can you postpone it for just 1 year, my son? Sylvia said, placing her hands on Ron's shoulders. Unexpectedly, the boy said, I cannot back down. Every time I see our relatives meet you, every time I see their expressions as if they are looking at someone when they look down on you, mother, I feel so indignant. That's why I cannot back down. Ron placed a hand on his chest and spoke his feelings. As long as I train well, they will not be able to look down on you anymore, he said, looking sincerely into his mother's eyes. Sylvia smiled happily. Then she praised him. You are very smart, Ron. You must have realized the reason I have to live alone and why people curse me. I met your father during a mission and fell in love with him. But because of your father's status as a knight, it was very difficult for us to be together. So I destroyed my own mana circuit, an energy center, and left the family. Actually, you have an older sister. She is 2 years older than you, her name is Xia. When we were living peacefully, we were discovered by an army from Eden and they came to assassinate us. Your father wasn't that strong. And I was pregnant with you. So we couldn't do anything. Fortunately, my father had secretly sent guards to protect me, but they were far away. By the time they arrived, it was too late. Your father and your sister had already lost their lives. I had nowhere else to go, no other choice. I was forced to return to the family, so I am considered a sinner of this family. I don't know what to say to your grandfather." As she spoke, Sylvia's voice became choked with emotion. Selfish. That was the only feeling Ron had after hearing the whole story. Sylvia was truly selfish. She had abandoned her family responsibilities to pursue her own happiness, only to return to beg for shelter. He understood why she was treated so harshly. But she was also the one who had given him this new life. For the first time, he had met someone who loved him so sincerely. Even if everyone thought she was selfish, to him at least, she was his only mother in 2 lifetimes. Ron turned and asked, "Mother, do you have any regrets? Do you wish you could go back to the time before you left home?" Sylvia smiled and replied, "No, I don't regret it at all. I lived as if I didn't exist in that house. Only after leaving did I truly feel alive. That was enough. I was truly happy then, and now I am happy to have you in my life. I'm so sorry, Ron. I am not a good mother. It's okay. I'm fine. Don't worry," Ron said to reassure his mother. He also smiled unconsciously. "Even if others criticize you as selfish, you are my precious, irreplaceable mother. My revenge will be successful after I help you reclaim your position as the heir to the Sieghart family." Seeing her son smile, Sylvia suddenly felt shy. Then a tear rolled down her cheek. Sylvia burst into tears. Ron became flustered. "Mother, why are you crying?" It took a while to console her. Ron let out a sigh of relief when his mother finally calmed down. Now he was alone in the room. Ron told himself, "I should check the progress of the Ring of Fire and then sleep. The training will start soon." Ron began to sit cross-legged, his hands forming a seal. A stream of energy slowly began to circulate around his body. He assessed, "Not bad. The rotation speed of the Ring of Fire has become faster after reaching 3 stars. If it's already like this at 3 stars, how fast will it be when it reaches the intermediate stage?" Suddenly, sparks flared up and began to condense in front of Ron. A voice came from the void. "Finally, the time has come." The ball of fire seemed to have a consciousness. A face appeared within the massive fireball, and it smiled at Ron. "Your rage has reached me. I am Wrath, the second monarch of the demonic realm. I will take revenge for you." Ron was stunned by this event, murmuring, "What is this thing?" The system chimed in with a notification. "Threat has been activated. Trait, Wrath has been created. Wrath has awakened." The ball of fire calling itself Wrath raised an eyebrow and observed Ron. "Your body and soul. Why is there a child here?" Ron asked cautiously, "What are you?" Wrath asked back, "I should be the one asking that. Who are you?" The rage. "A feel is not something a brat like you can emit." Then Wrath itself realized. No. It is you. Deep within your soul, you are hiding a very deep resentment." It used its special eyes to look deep into Ron's soul. Then Wrath circled Ron and whispered in his ear, "Good. Then offer your soul to me. In return, I will help you take the revenge you have longed for." Ron tried to remember everything. Did he appear because of my rage towards Duress before I died? But it's too late now. After thinking, Ron replied, "No. I don't need your help. I will take revenge myself." Wrath was startled. Ron thought, "I will never get this chance a second time. I can't let someone else take revenge for me." He repeated, "I will be the one to take his head." Wrath continued to circle him. "You seem to be mistaken about something, kid. I didn't come here to negotiate with you." It gave a strange smile. Wrath has already made its decision. The ball of fire shot up to the ceiling of the room, and the fire in the room became denser. Ron hugged his body. This fire was a bit special. "What is this? Why is this flame so cold?" "Perhaps you just need to offer your body to me." With those words, Wrath shot straight towards Ron. The boy was momentarily unsure how to act. Just like that, the flame of Wrath entered Ron's body. In an instant, it had enveloped Ron and then slowly disappeared. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly. Ron collapsed onto the bed, clutching his chest. "So cold. My body. Now even my mind feels like it's being frozen." His elemental attribute must be ice, not fire. After entering Ron's body, Wrath began to whisper, "Think of him. Release your rage. Even if they are gods, Wrath will end them." Ron hugged his arms tightly, shivering uncontrollably. "Thanks to my water-resistant skill, I can endure a little longer. But this attack isn't just affecting the temperature. He's constantly provoking my anger." In Ron's mind, the image of the moment he was killed by Lord Duress in his past life repeated over and over. Wrath continued to whisper in his ear, "I will smash his head and drink his blood. Surrender now and offer your body to me." Ron clenched his teeth, enduring, because he had another worry. "If I give him this body, who knows what he will do to Sylvia and the maids in the house? I would rather die than offer my body to him." Wrath still tried to persuade him. "If you release your rage and accept me, you will feel comfortable. But you choose to continue struggling meaninglessly like this. I didn't want to damage this body so I could use it later, but I think doing so is pointless. I will not go easy on you anymore. I'll just eat you alive and be done with it. Ron collapsed on the bed, his body feeling like it was about to shatter. I've reached my limit. This body can't hold out much longer. At this rate, I'll die soon. I want to live. Then, Ron suddenly had an idea. If it can resist the ice aura, thanks to my water resistance skill, then I might also be able to endure the physical and mental pain by using the Ring of Fire. Ron began to form a seal with his hands. He started to summon the power of the Ring of Fire. If I want to live, this is the only way. In an instant, the red flame from the Ring of Fire enveloped Ron's body, pushing back the blue flame of wrath. Seeing this, Wrath began to worry. He gritted his teeth. I have only just awakened. How could this happen? A lowly human dares to challenge me. Seeing that his actions were effective, Ron slowly raised his head and declared once more, I will take revenge myself. I refuse to let a wandering spirit possess my body. Wandering spirit. How dare you call a demon king of the demonic realm a wandering spirit? Wrath shouted angrily, the blue flame beginning to swirl around Ron. He just smirked. You dare call yourself a demon king when you can't even defeat me? Or perhaps the real demon king is dead. You should disappear. Being taunted, Wrath exploded with anger. How dare you mock me? Although Ron was talking big, he was also worried. He tried to use the little time he had to analyze the current situation. He just said he had only just awakened. Perhaps that's why he can't use his full power. The system screen suddenly appeared. Ron was surprised. A supplementary ability. What is this? Why all of a sudden? Wrath screamed, that is my power, the status window. How do you possess it? Ron was bewildered. His stats were now displayed with clear numbers. What is this status window with messages? What does it have to do with you? Ron tried to ask. Wrath circled around, unwilling to answer. Of course it's related. I created that system myself, but do you know why you can use it? Ron continued to wonder. What is the system for? Wrath shook its head vehemently. I have no reason to tell you. Is this also to promote growth? Ron asked again. How did you know? Wrath stammered. After hearing that question, Ron found this amusing. He can't even control his own emotions. No wonder he is Wrath. It's strange, the effect of the Ring of Fire is even stronger than in my previous life. So it's all thanks to the system. It's driving me crazy. Wrath screamed. Hurry up and offer your body and return my power to me. Give it back now. Before it could finish, a chunk of Wrath was blown away. It was furious. What do you think you're doing? It turned out Ron had just punched it. It was worth a try. Even though I didn't use much mana in that punch. Is he an intangible spirit? Then aura probably won't do anything to him either, Ron pondered. Wrath was still raging. Despite all his theatrics, no one had appeared. How dare a mere human treat me like this? Perhaps I am the only one who can see and feel him. Ron waved his hand dismissively at Wrath. Wrath thought of a plan and shot towards Ron's arm. The blue flame began to wrap around Ron's wrist, finally transforming into a tiny bracelet. Ron looked at the bracelet, puzzled. This is... Before he could finish, Wrath spoke. My seal has only just been broken, but my power will return. When the time is right, you will have no way to stop me. I will hunt you until you have no more rage or resentment left. Ron broke into a cold sweat, sighing internally. He's so annoying. I really want to kill him, but if I force him to separate from me, the system might disappear. And who knows what he would do to Sylvia and Helen to get to me. It's better to keep him by my side to monitor him. I'll trust in my own ability to progress. Hopefully, I can keep him in check. While thinking, Ron stared intently at the bracelet. This is a bit unrelated, but why did you choose a flower bracelet? It doesn't suit you at all, Ron said mockingly. Wrath replied irritably, it's my personal taste. Don't judge. Ron sighed. I know, whatever. The next morning, Sylvia and Helen were waiting at the door early. The young master will be fine. And Noba, he's ready. Both of them looked up the stairs, where a voice was coming from. I'm coming. Ron slowly walked down the stairs, a satchel on his shoulder. He smiled and said, to the training ground. Before leaving, his mother and the maid were still reluctant to part with him. Young master, you must be careful. Don't push yourself too hard. Remember, Helen. Are you coming back? Helen turned to look at Sylvia, only to see her eyes were red. Lady Sylvia, if you send the young master off without a happy face, he will feel down. Sylvia knelt down, placed her hands on her son's shoulders, and advised, Ron, be careful on your way. The boy smiled to reassure his mother. Don't worry. As I told you, if it's too hard, just give up. Don't push yourself too hard. And so Ron began to leave for the training ground to start his course. Sylvia still watched him with a heavy heart. Everything will be alright, won't it? Helen comforted her. The young master has improved a lot. He will pass the training and return. That's right. Compared to before, he is much better, but this child. Sylvia watched Ron with a worried gaze. Lady Sylvia, the instructor this time is famous for being perceptive at Sieghart. With young Master Ron's efforts, he will be able to do it, Helen continued to reassure her. Sylvia hugged her son tightly, reluctant to let go. Ron gave a wry smile. That's right, Mother. I promised, didn't I? I won't let myself get hurt. Don't worry, I will definitely keep my word. Sylvia couldn't hold back her tears, which flowed freely. Trust in me. Now the boy was gone, but Sylvia still couldn't bear it. Ron. Come back safe and sound. In the end, Sylvia had to accept that it was time for her child to grow up. The training location was the Sieghart No. 5 training ground. Now, outside the gate, countless children were appearing, and voices were everywhere. Which family are you from? I bet they aren't too strict with the trainees. My parents told me I have to get into the top 10. Only Ron stood alone, not talking to anyone. Just as rumored, there are a lot of people here. Not only relatives coming to the Sieghart training ground but also those recommended by vassal families. According to Helen, because there are so many people this year, they had to set up 6 training grounds. Lost in thought, Ron suddenly noticed someone pointing at him. Isn't that him? Not far away, 2 boys were laughing about Ron. Look at his atrophied muscles. They'll probably crumble at the slightest touch. A sick person like him will probably run away halfway through. Why does he have to come here and show off? And that flowery bracelet, what era is that from? So outdated. At this point, Wrath, hiding in the flower bracelet, became annoyed. What did you say? You worthless trash. You nobles with blind eyes. Wrath will shatter your bones and gouge out your eyes. Wrath circled in front of the 2 boys and cursed them, but it seemed the 2 kids couldn't see him. Ron was not one to back down either. He spoke up. Why are you 2 gossiping? Say it to my face. He walked right up to the 2 of them. Ron scolded them bluntly. Don't you know it's wrong to talk behind someone's back? The 2 boys were startled by this. How dare you? You're obviously a delinquent who was forced to live in the annex. You're from a collateral line, not a direct descendant. Ron asked with a calm expression, what status do you have to use the word dare when you yourselves are only from a branch family? Isn't that word reserved for opponents of a lower status? The 2 boys were speechless. One of them couldn't hold back and grabbed Ron's shirt, about to attack. You really are a brat who doesn't know his place. Ron was not to be trifled with. He glared, his arm tensing, ready to unleash the ring of fire. Just then, someone intervened. Stop it right now. The training is about to begin. What are you doing? How dare you tarnish the Sieghart clan's name in front of outsiders? This boy was a direct descendant, named Buren Sieghart. As soon as the 2 boys saw him, they looked embarrassed, clearly showing a mix of apprehension and respect. Young Master Buren, I'm sorry. And you, know your place, Buren said, facing Ron. You are just a tiny grain of sand that I can brush away if I want to. If you don't want to be kicked out of the annex, then live quietly. Buren lectured him condescendingly. In fact, this boy already held a grudge against Ron. The foolish kid in front of him had attracted all of the clan head's attention, but by using his circumstances instead of his own true abilities. An uneducated brat who shouldn't even be allowed to train dares to. Buren had held a deep grudge against Ron since that day. Back in the present, Buren was still putting on airs. If you don't intend to participate in the training, then get out of here right now. Otherwise, stay out of my sight because there's no way you'll pass this training. I've heard enough of your nonsense. Ron spoke up after letting Buren finish his tirade. You are a direct descendant, but you have no rank whatsoever. Are you going to kick me out of the annex? Do you think you can do that when you aren't even a trainee yet? Ron's words hit Buren where it hurt. Oh, I guess you might have a chance to do that if you go crying and begging to your father. Buren was so angry his lips trembled. A descendant of a branch family dares. Suddenly someone kicked open the nearby wooden door with a loud bang, drowning out everything. Whoa, you're already fighting. I am the head instructor who will be supervising your training. My name is Rimmer. I look forward to our smooth cooperation. This elven instructor looked at the students and chuckled. I heard there are 160 trainees participating, but there are only 8 instructors. No matter how you look at it, there are too many trainees. So we'll reduce that number with a test. With a cheerful face, Rimmer announced a piece of important, and somewhat frightening, news to the entire batch of students. To be precise, we're only keeping 1/4 of you. Rimmer explained, holding up one finger. Instantly, the trainees erupted in chaos. Only that many people? No way. What is this about? I'm just separating the good from the bad, Rimmer tried to explain. You see, I only want to select a few outstanding individuals. This arrogant bastard. How dare you look down on the great Wrath? I'll rip this elf's ears off. Wrath shouted angrily, feeling slighted. Ron had to lightly tap the bracelet. Be quiet. On the platform, Rimmer lounged back in his wooden chair and said with a smile, in this training ground, I am the law. If you have any complaints, feel free to take them up with the clan head. Shall we begin? What are you all doing? Hurry up and run, Rimmer said with a sly grin, pointing at the trainees. Huff. The whole group looked bewildered. Stamina and willpower are the foundation of martial arts, Rimmer announced. Run laps around the gymnasium. Don't stop until I tell you to. Run at your maximum speed for meh. The entire group of trainees started running for their lives. If you want to run, you have to get ahead. What are you doing staying in the back? Wrath popped out to scold Ron. Among the whispering trainees, one asked, why is he suddenly making us run? Ron said quietly, this isn't a competition. There's no need to overtake others. In fact, Ron had done his research and knew that what Rimmer valued were a person's potential and character. He didn't care for superficial things. Those who could endure would pass this test. I will definitely last until the end. Among the running trainees, the two leaders were being praised by the instructors. Young Master Frieren and Lady Runan are truly unmatched. They are all doing well, but those two children stand out the most. This isn't even their maximum speed yet. At that pace, they could run for hours. To have reached that level at only 12 years old. Just thinking about the future of these children makes me feel apprehensive. And that small child, isn't he the one from the rumors? Only then did the men notice Ron. It's not surprising. He can't keep up and is constantly falling behind. That child is ill. To be running at that speed is already impressive. He looks tired already. He'll probably drop out soon. Rimmer heard all these comments. He said nothing, just smirked. Interesting. Have I ever met a child like him before? It seemed what Rimmer saw was different from what the others saw. I used to think that those whose potential I couldn't see were the strongest because there was no way to fathom their depth. I can see the characteristics and colors of those other children, and I know what kind of people they will become in the future. But Ron. Why? I can't see any color. In Rimmer's eyes, Ron was just a blurry, black and white creature. This excited Rimmer even more. It means his potential is beyond my perception, he muttered. How fascinating. On the trainee's side, the boys from before saw Ron falling behind and sneered. See, he acted all arrogant, and now he's in last place. He should be grateful to be last. He's about to fail anyway. Look at his dazed expression. I bet he won't last another 10 minutes. As for Ron, he was thinking differently. Impossible. This is just training. Why are they only making us run? In my past life, they would release starved monsters. I had to run for my life, not just run like this. Isn't this too simple? Thinking of the present, Ron couldn't help but smile. An unknown amount of time passed, and the trainees began to tire. Rimmer, however, was still intently observing the young Ron. He stared in disbelief. Is there something wrong with that kid? How is he still able to continue running? His stamina should have been depleted long ago. This goes beyond what one would call persistence or stubbornness. That kid shouldn't have any stamina left to even drag himself forward. Such immense willpower can only exist in warriors who have trained relentlessly and experienced near-death situations countless times. How could this kid possess such a strong will? Rimmer put a hand to his chin and mumbled, Ron Ziehart. Interesting. Down below, only a few trainees were still running. Ron was now gradually catching up to Frieren. Seeing this, Frieren was partly infuriated. Why? How is he still running? I was certain he had no means to train. According to the saint, Sylvia's son would most likely die, so forget about becoming a warrior. And he was even worse the last time I saw him. But how? They are all so annoying. Frieren gritted his teeth and finally made a bold decision. Alright, I'll show them. Control aura. Frieren activated his power, and instantly, a stream of energy seemed to boost his body. His eyes flickered with light. I will show them that there is such a huge difference in skill between us that you will want to give up everything and surrender. And just like that, Frieren shot forward, taking the lead as the stamina of all the other contestants was depleted. Ron paid it no mind, only showing a hint of surprise. Running just ahead of him was the girl, Runan. In contrast, Ron found it amusing. Despite that lofty speech, he's just a kid. Mentally, Runan is more mature than him. We are not competing against each other in this task. This is a battle against oneself. There is no reason to be influenced by him and disrupt my own pace. More time passed. Most of the contestants had given up, panting heavily. Now the group found it strange to see Ron still running. Damn it, what the hell is this? How is he still able to run? I was sure they said he was a sick person. Does he not know what fatigue is? As for Ron, his running speed remained the same as before. His entire body was burning up. Fatigue was clearly unavoidable. He constantly reminded himself, stop talking nonsense as if this is easy. I'm about to die from the coldness in my body right now. It feels like my heart and lungs are being squeezed, but somehow I'm still able to extend my stamina by optimizing the use of the Ring of Fire. The only silver lining here is that the Ring of Fire is developing rapidly. I guess I need to give it my all for it to have maximum effect if it continue like this. Lost in thought, Wrath suddenly spoke up. How pathetic you are. Although your body will be possessed by the great Wrath, you are not only being left behind, but look at your despicable state. Give it to me. Give your body to the great Wrath. At this point, Wrath transformed into a will-o'-the-wisp, circling and tempting Ron, besides overtaking that blue-haired brat. Ron glared at him, shouting internally, "Damn it, this is the worst possible time for this." Wrath roared and opened its giant mouth to bite at Ron. "I will completely paralyze them all." An electric current shot through Ron's body, causing him to falter for a moment, a look of agony on his face. "I have to endure." Ron clenched his teeth, bearing the pain. "My senses are leaving me because of the rage, but I need to pretend that nothing is happening as much as possible." In reality, all of this was happening inside Ron's head. On the outside, he maintained a calm demeanor, focusing on running. He silently warned Wrath, "Stop your stupid tricks and leave me alone." "That won't work on me." Wrath just grinned with delight. "Don't make me laugh. How can you not be affected? No mortal in this world can withstand the wrath of the great Wrath. Let's see how long you can hold out." One of Ron's hands unconsciously gripped his chest, trying to endure the dull, throbbing pain. "I need to endure it. If I show any weakness right now, he will rush in and tear me apart." Seeing Ron still acting normal, Wrath lost its composure and became even more frantic. "Ah, this stubborn bastard. Why? Why does the wrath of the great Wrath have no effect on you?" Ron panted heavily, not bothering to answer him. "It really hurts. It feels like I'm about to die. I can't even control my own body anymore. My vision is blurring. I can't even breathe properly." Ron's vision went dark. He was about to collapse. His pupils blurred. Ron wondered, "Is this the farthest I can go?" "Hey, you can stop now," the instructor announced. The last few to stop felt as if they had been safe. Some couldn't take it anymore and sat down on the ground, gasping for large mouthfuls of air. Frieren stopped right next to Ron and chided him, "You're really stubborn." Ron was busy catching his breath, with no time to listen to the criticism. He had a much more terrible worry. "I almost died right there. This life probably won't be easy either." Frieren turned to look at Ron with a different kind of gaze. As for Wrath, it flew around Ron in a frenzy. "What a monster, how could you?" Ron replied to him, "That's why I told you it was useless. It has no effect on me." On the contrary, Ron had a different feeling. Even so, it clearly helped the growth of the Ring of Fire. Plus, my body has also developed thanks to the status window. If I continue to train like this, I will definitely be able to. Suddenly, to the astonishment of both Wrath and Ron, the status board appeared. Conditions have been met. Extreme movement has surpassed the body's physical limits. Stats have been enhanced. Strength, agility, and stamina have all increased. Seeing the notification, Wrath screamed in protest. "What is happening? Why did it give you extra stats for overcoming the great Wrath's attack?" Ron was so surprised he couldn't speak. He felt the same way as Wrath's cursing. "This is ridiculous." Speaking of Instructor Rimmer, he stood in the middle of the platform and began his speech. "Good job, everyone. We will end the test here. And about what I told you before you started running." With the mentality of preparing to fail, the contestants who heard this all hummed their heads in sadness. Rimmer burst out laughing, waving his hand dismissively. "I was just kidding about eliminating 3/4 of you." A chorus of protests erupted. "What? I ran my heart out just for that." Rimmer continued, "There's no way I would eliminate so many trainees on the first day. They would never let me teach again if I did that. Besides, I never said I would eliminate you after this test." At this point, Rimmer's face suddenly turned serious. "But if you keep training like you did today, most of you will be eliminated." Hearing this, everyone swallowed nervously. Rimmer walked back and forth and analyzed. "I clearly told you all to run at full speed. However, not a single one of you 160 ran at full speed until the very end, except for one person. And some of you were so cunning as to even use your aura." Hearing this, Frieren flinched. Rimmer stopped in front of the young Ron. He squatted down and smiled with his eyes narrowed. "Actually, what you do doesn't matter because you are the ones taking the test, not me. However, you will definitely not fail the test as long as you follow my instructions exactly. So don't worry about that." While speaking, Rimmer formed a circle with his hands and aimed it at the young Ron. But it won't be easy to do." Finally, Rimmer announced, "From this moment on, you will all become temporary trainees. I will remove the temporary part if you can pass the test in the next 6 months. Oh, by the way, I was also planning on choosing a top trainee, but I won't be ranking you. You will be able to experience the top-class accommodation that the family has prepared. Oh, and there's also an indoor training ground on the left, so you can go check that out too." At the end of the session, Instructor Rimmer simply gave a brief introduction to the training grounds campus for the new students. A while later, in a nearby forest, Rimmer was taking a stroll to meet someone important. Seeing the sparkling epaulets, Rimmer smiled and said, "I have a guest waiting at my dreamstone, don't I? My lord." The person Rimmer was meeting was the clan head of Zeehart, Glenn Zeehart. He turned and asked, "How did things go?" Rimmer continued walking and replied, "You shouldn't be the one asking me that, should you? You must have seen everything, since you came all this way. You also know how good I am at judging others." As expected, Buren and Runen have the most outstanding talent, and the other children also have the potential to become pillars of the family in the future. However, Rimmer paused for a moment. "I saw nothing from Ron. I don't understand how that kid was able to keep running at the end. His stamina should have been depleted long ago. This is the first time I've seen something like this since the last time I saw you, my lord. Every day has been so boring since my energy center was dissipated," Rimmer said with a bitter laugh. "But I have a feeling this is going to be interesting." Glenn jumped down from the rock next to Rimmer. "You were the one who demanded to become the instructor for these trainees. Your job is not to find amusement, but to raise these children to become warriors of the Zeehart family." After saying a few words, Glenn turned and left. Rimmer replied, "Of course, my lord. Furthermore, I have a feeling I'll be able to entrust my own future to one of these trainees." Rimmer said this with a hidden meaning. Glenn understood that his words were aimed at his grandson. He replied, "It's just a coincidence. That kid can hardly become a warrior." The two said nothing more, and Glenn slowly walked away. Rimmer just smirked. "You know very well that's not the truth." Back with the trainees, Ron let out a sigh of relief. "The basic training is over. Let's go back to the training ground." Wrath noticed the scornful glances directed at Ron and pouted. "After all that brat is so mean." The other students stared at Ron's back, all of them looking at him with envy. "This is absurd." The sun gradually set, and complaints echoed through the air. The group of 3 students from before had gathered to complain. "Unless he cheated, there's no way he could have lasted that long." "You're right. I definitely heard about his illness." These 3 belonged to a branch family, led by an orange-haired boy, Frieren Zeehart. Frieren thought for a moment and said, "It must be because of the divine medicine. I heard a rumor that the Saint of Healing gave it to him." The other 2 were surprised. He did that." The 2 of them exploded in anger. "So he was able to run because of the power of the divine medicine. And he still pretended to be so talented because he lasted until the end. What a shameless bastard." "So I was thinking," Frieren said with a sly smile. "Should we teach that arrogant bastard a lesson?" Ron was thrown against the base of a tree. He looked up at the person opposite him and asked, "Why did you suddenly do that?" Opposite Ron was Frieren, who sneered. "Ah, you don't know." His 2 lackeys began to chime in. "You were abandoned by the direct line, yet you dare to brag when you only used the power of some divine medicine you were lucky enough to get. If you didn't have the divine medicine the Saint of Healing gave you, there's no way you could have run like you did today. How dare you pull those tricks on us? Don't you branch family members have any shame?" Ron couldn't be bothered to explain. "Kids will be kids." What a ridiculous reason. Seeing that Ron said nothing, the other 2 took it as an admission of guilt. They continued to grin and started to gesture wildly. "Don't be scared. We just brought you out here to have a little chat." "That's right, we just wanted to talk to you for a bit. Don't worry, this happens all the time." Frieren cracked his knuckles. "You heard the teacher. We have to interact and learn from each other." Frieren balled his fist and threw a punch at Ron. Wrath immediately appeared. "What? My master is being treated like this, and you can still take it, even though it's nothing to be sad about." Unexpectedly, Ron retaliated with a counter-punch. But before that, he punched the leader, Frieren, straight in the mouth. The 2 lackeys were completely shocked. How could someone as weak as Ron land the first blow on Frieren? Even more shocked was Wrath. A chat. "Yes, you're right." Only then did Ron speak up. On the other side, Frieren had been knocked out. "Let's talk with our fists." Ron cracked his knuckles, a satisfied smile on his face. The other 2, relying on their numbers, rushed in. But Ron dodged all their attacks with a few simple movements. He landed a kick straight into one of their stomachs. The other one, scared, trembled and asked, "What are you doing?" While the one who had been kicked was breathless. "How did I lose?" Before he could finish his sentence, Ron landed a punch right in his face. Frieren, who had just woken up, was not spared either. Only Wrath watched with wide-eyed admiration. "You just landed a hit. This is a once-in-a-thousand-years sight." Ron said nothing, still focused on beating up the 3 branch family brothers. A moment later, after the thrashing, the young men were all on the ground, retching. The 2 lackeys were rolling on the ground, begging for mercy. "Stop, I can't breathe anymore." Frieren knelt down and apologized to Ron. "We were wrong. Stop." Ron slammed his foot down on Frieren's hand. He leaned in and sneered, "Before we end things, let me ask you one question." Frieren was in pain but didn't dare to cry out. Okay. Ron asked directly, Who put you up to this? Was it Buren? Hearing the name, Karen's eyes showed clear panic. He bowed his head low and mumbled, "No, we did this without his knowledge. Buren has nothing to do with this." Ron was inwardly impressed. "That's surprising. I thought he didn't like me. Maybe he's not that bad." Ron asked again. "You won't go telling our classmates about our little chat today, will you?" Karen, pale with fear, replied, "Of course not." Ron grabbed Karen's head. He brought his face close and threatened, "Good. If you don't want to have another chat tomorrow, then you'd better stay away from me." Karen, now trembling with fear, replied, "We won't touch you again. We were wrong. If you understand, then get lost," Ron shouted. And so the whole group ran off in a panic, leaving only Ron standing there. He didn't notice that not far away, Instructor Rimmer had been watching everything. He just smiled and commented, "What a beautiful sight. It feels like watching the Lord when he was young, doesn't it? The boy's blood is real. He has martial talent too." He mumbled, "A hidden gem among the most talented. I'm looking forward to you, young Ron Zeghart." Late at night, everyone returned to the training camp to rest. Ron was checking a new system notification. Condition met. Wrath is very pleased with your reaction. Agility 1. Seeing this, Wrath screamed, "What is this?" "You get a point for pleasing the great Wrath. This system is broken." Ron said nonchalantly, "You created it, so why don't you know?" Wrath turned to argue, "Of course. I've never tried the system on anyone else before. This is because you stole it from the great Wrath." "Oh, is that so?" Ron said sarcastically. Wrath grumbled, "Ungrateful brat." But then Ron silently turned away. Wrath calmed down and said, "I have a suggestion for you." "A suggestion?" Ron asked. "Make a bet with the great Wrath," he proposed. "If you win, I will give you stat points. But if you lose, you must accept my wrath." As he finished speaking, the system also responded. "Wrath proposes a wager with you. Condition: achieve first place in the test to become an official trainee. Success: all stats 2, and receive a random attribute. Failure: inflict 10 points of the rage emotion." Ron read it carefully, and then asked, "You mean achieve first place in the competition to become an official trainee that Rimmer mentioned?" Wrath replied, "That's right. He said there would be a first place, so the result is clear." "Then what is a random attribute?" Wrath explained, "One of the great Wrath's attributes will be bestowed upon you. Of course the level will be lowered to suit a mortal like you." Ron had a question. "Then just one more question. What does inflict 10 points of the rage emotion upon failure mean?" "It means exactly what it says. You will receive the emotion of rage, the very thing the great Wrath possesses. The feeling of rage that the great Wrath bestows upon you is nothing," Wrath said with a tempting smile. "But if you hold the great Wrath's rage, you will lose control of your own emotions, no matter how strong your will is." Ron was silent. "So that's his intention. The way he behaves like a person of his word, I don't think he's lying." He even answered very honestly. "Compared to the reward, the risk of failure is quite small. Perhaps this is the poisoned apple I have to eat. For a sick person like me, achieving the top spot will be very difficult. But I am someone who has been resurrected." After thinking for a while, Ron replied, "The conditions aren't bad." "All right, I accept," Wrath exclaimed. "Excellent," the system responded. "You have accepted the wager with Wrath." Instantly a blue flame like Wrath's appeared in Ron's palm. He was confident. "If I make use of the experience from my past life, I will never lose." The next morning, in the middle of the training field, a group of trainees was panting heavily. Every single one of them was exhausted. "My legs are about to explode. I don't have the strength to stand up anymore. We had to run our guts out this morning, and now this." A few minutes earlier, Rimmer was explaining, "What you are doing is the horse stance. Even though it's just a horse stance, don't underestimate it. This is the basic stance in martial arts. Everyone must practice it. Hold that pose until I say stop. I'm going to take a nap." In front of him, the trainees were beginning to hold the horse stance. "Of course it's not mandatory. So let me repeat, you can rest, not me." Back in the present, a trainee shouted, "This is too hard. I'm not doing it anymore. When are we going to learn swordsmanship?" "Forget it. We've only run and done the horse stance so far." Frieren, standing nearby, reminded them. "Then stop complaining. The basic training is over. Go and practice. Because we are only learning basic exercises, your swordsmanship will be eroded." "They're gone." Wrath circled Ron and said, "They're going to practice swordsmanship. Aren't you going with them?" he asked. Ron shook his head. "I don't need to go right now. Practicing swordsmanship with these poor skills would just be a waste of time. What I need now is not a sword, but foundational strength and stamina. Currently, because of the curse of frost, my physical strength is much weaker than others. For growth and training, the foundation is the most important." Ron was now doing planks, drenched in sweat. He was still training diligently. Right now, I have to focus on strengthening my body more than anything else. While Ron was training, another trainee was hiding not far away. It was the girl, Reincarnated from the vassal family. She watched Ron intently. That's Ron Ziegart. He's improving so fast. His weights are heavier than yesterday. I'm sure I heard he was sick. The girl noticed every little thing about Ron. But day by day, the weights he lifts get heavier. It's clear that you have to train hard to lift heavier weights. But to increase like that every day is absurd. How can you add 10 pounds to your weights in a week? Maybe it's because he's different. Why is a sick person so persistent? Ron Ziegart. Lost in thought, the girl finally walked over to where Ron was training. There's definitely something about this guy. Runen walked straight up to Ron. As soon as he saw her, Ron also recognized her. Runen Sullian. Why are you here? The girl said nothing and just looked straight into Ron's eyes. Ron was surprised to have someone standing in front of him. Runen, Ron asked again, why are you here? The two looked at each other without saying a word. Runen thought, what is going on with this child's growth? Suddenly, she felt something unusual. She smelled something cool and gentle. Runen found herself unconsciously approaching Ron. The girl calmly walked past Ron and sat down with a shy expression. Then she started lifting weights. Seeing this, Ron stood up and turned away, which also surprised Runen. While they were both training, Runen kept looking at Ron and thought, it's definitely the smell from before. After smelling the refreshing scent from Ron earlier, her body felt lighter. The girl clenched her fists. Thanks to it, I can now lift heavier weights than before. While Runen was lost in her thoughts, Ron spoke up. Hey, do you have something to say to me or what? No, Runen replied quickly. After hearing her answer, Ron scratched his head and walked away. It seemed Runen's answer had confused him. Runen must have had something she wanted to say but really couldn't. She looked at the boy. Ron Ziegart. I will need to follow you for a little longer. In the trainees' training area, a group of youths appeared, led by Frieren. The group was looking at Ron, or rather, at the fact that Runen Sullian was constantly sticking to the young Ron. The gossip started. Why is Runen following that guy? What's so great about hanging out with someone who was kicked out of the direct line like him? Frieren said nothing. Frieren finally spoke. Useless. Just repeating simple strength training exercises is pointless. Basically, Ron lacks strength, so he needs those simple exercises. But no matter how hard he tries, he's no match for us. I don't know what the test will be about, but at least as preparation for that day, it would be quite good to continue practicing the sword. Frieren looked at the wooden sword in his hand and said, let's go. No need to pay attention to that collateral brat. The results will speak for themselves on the test day. After that, Frieren led the group away. A leaf fell into a puddle in the silence of the night. While Ron was training for the upcoming test, a person with moss green hair appeared and greeted him. To run. The boy introduced himself. Hello, I'm Dorian. Can I train with you? I want to learn the proper form. The moss green-haired person was the collateral trainee, Dorian. Ron replied, well, I don't really mind. Thank you, Dorian said. Then, although this isn't much, Dorian said as he reached into his backpack to take something out, to the curiosity of Ron and Runen. But please eat this. It's delicious. It turned out to be a pastry. Ron carefully observed the strange shape of the pastry. He refused. I'm fine, so take it back. Ron glanced over at Runen. Runen was now staring intently at the pastry. Seeing this, Ron broke into a cold sweat. Runen's eyes widened even more. It seemed the pastry had really caught her attention, and that made Ron even more flustered. In the end, he gave the pastry to the girl, Runen, to eat, sighing inwardly, now there's another stranger with us. And so, the Yam team had 3 members. April passed, and May began. The Jam team also grew closer. On Frierin's side, he didn't rest for a single day either. Finally, 6 months had passed since the training began. Spending every day with the intention of pushing life to the boundary between life and death. The shadows of the obstacles from his first days of training were no longer seen. Breathing out to the very end of his windpipe and focusing only on the people in front of him. Only 2 people were left in front. And then, time had finally passed, and the morning of the test had arrived. Thank you for coming. In the middle of the bustling stadium, the announcer's welcoming voice rang out. As the guardians of the contestants participating this time, please follow the designated lines and move in order. Following the instructions, the nobles began to settle into their positions, each with their own thoughts. Ron Ziegart, I wonder if you still remember the bet with the Great Wrath. Wrath was now circling and probing Ron. In the end, you still couldn't surpass those 2, so get ready to accept the Great Wrath's rage, he said with a demonic smile. All the tests are different, so you can't know anything for sure yet, Ron said, waving his hand dismissively. More importantly, Dorian, what are you doing down there? Ron looked down and asked. Dorian, who was now bowing low on the field, replied, no, It's just that I'm a little too nervous because today is the test day. Just breathing out is something even the weakest one like me can do. Ron. Runen wanted to say something. I brought cookies. Eat them. The girl held out the cookie towards Ron. He broke into a cold sweat and replied, "No, I'm fine." Suddenly, he noticed Buren looking at him. Why are there people like them near me? Buren sighed inwardly as he looked at the gym team standing right behind him. In the stands, where the guardians were seated, Sylvia said excitedly, "Helen, look over there. Our Ron is standing there so confidently, of course my lady. He has endured arduous training for 6 months. It seems our Ron also has friends now. With Sir Ron's personality, that's only natural." Sylvia and Helen were overjoyed to see Ron talking with Runen and Dorian. Young Master Ron has never once complained because he is young and understanding. Sylvia was happy to see her son like this. Making friends and all, I'm so proud of him. Suddenly, an announcement rang out. The figure of a man with a red cloak was entering, with a very noble-looking beard. The clan head is entering. The clan head personally came to watch. The crowd began to stir. The newcomer was none other than Glenn Zieghart. Didn't he never personally come to watch before? Everyone was surprised by his appearance. While everyone was surprised by the clan head's arrival, the light sword Rimmer was no exception. He wondered and asked, "Whoa, what is the clan head doing here? This is an event that will shape the future of the clan." "Your reaction is as if this is a place I shouldn't be," Glenn said. "Haha, of course not." "Welcome, my lord," Rimmer said, a little awkwardly. "Well, since the clan head is here, we won't beat around the bush. We will immediately begin the selection test for official trainees." Rimmer raised his hand and announced. "Then, ladies and gentlemen, everyone, the criteria that everyone at Zieghart is quite curious about will now be revealed." In an instant, Rimmer's eyes changed. A green light flashed in his eyes, and a terrifying pressure was directed straight at the trainees. The pressure was green like the leaves of a dense forest. It carried the coolness of nature, but it was no less majestic and terrifying. Even Ron felt a chill run down his spine. "Breaking through my pressure," Rimmer announced. "That is today's test." Rimmer began to release his pressure, directly suppressing all the trainees present at the scene. He explained, "Pressure is simply something that cannot be separated from the life of a warrior. This test will evaluate the level of that ability." "Wait a minute, a object. It hasn't been long since the children learned aura. Why are you testing pressure so early?" A spectator protested. This was followed by a series of boos. In fact, there are still children who haven't even learned aura yet. A simple pressure test is just too unfair. Not to mention some of the kids say all you do in training is sleep. What kind of test is this? Rimmer sighed. Pressure is not simply the application of mana. True pressure is the level of spiritual power that a warrior has built up through their achievements. It is a testament to a warrior that can be demonstrated at a certain level without needing aura. What are you saying? The person didn't get to finish his sentence before he was cut off. "He's not wrong," a voice said. "My lord," the man was startled because the person who had cut him off was the clan head. Glenn explained Rimmer's method. One can only truly comprehend pressure through the way one has lived and trained. Rimmer was pleased that Glenn supported his method. Even someone who does not possess aura can possess immense pressure depending on the difficulty and perseverance with which they have trained. As Glenn finished speaking, Rimmer continued. "Indeed, my lord. You truly understand everything. So that's how it is. I'm sure no one here has any objections to the test anymore. Right. So let's ignore the troublemakers and start the test right away. Runen, please step forward. The rest of you, step back." The first trainee to be called was Runen. "Now then, Runen. The pressure I am about to release will be at a level that you will be able to overcome if you have given your all during the training period. If you can overcome the pressure and touch me, you will pass," Rimmer explained briefly. Then he just smiled. "The test will begin now." A stream of green light was released from Rimmer. This green light grew stronger and stronger, clearly visible on Runen's face. The pressure forced Runen to curl up and defend herself. "You will fail immediately if you use your aura to resist this pressure. I want you to pass this test with the will you've built up through your training so far," Rimmer reminded the girl. The pressure grew stronger, causing Runen to squeeze her eyes shut, grit her teeth, and painstakingly take step after step towards Rimmer's position. Runen's hand was getting closer to the instructor. Finally, Runen succeeded in the test, grabbing Rimmer's wrist. Instructor Rimmer placed a hand on Runen's head, acknowledging her achievement. He praised her. "You passed with ease. I can see the sweet fruits of your hard work. I want you to continue to press forward with that will." At this point, Runen was still panting heavily, drenched in sweat after the test. "Now, next is Dorian." As soon as his name was called, the boy started shaking like a leaf. "Emph. What kind of ranking is this?" It seemed Dorian was not ready, a bewildered look on his face as he didn't expect to be next. "I rank however I please. So get your butt up and out here." Dorian tremblingly walked up to the platform, sweat dripping down his face. You saw what Runan did before you, right? I want you to use the willpower you've built up through your training to break through the wall of pressure I create. Rimmer tried to encourage him, but Dorian still asked tremblingly, do you really think I can do it, sir? I'm pretty notorious for having no willpower at all. Well, if you don't have it, I'll simply fail you. Simple as that. Without missing a beat, Instructor Rimmer began to radiate pressure from within his body, just as he had done with Runan. A seemingly painful cry came from Dorian. The pressure was so strong it forced Dorian to his knees. Ron, observing from the sidelines, realized something about Instructor Rimmer's test. The level of pressure he releases is adjusted depending on the subject. He's adjusting the pressure based on the children's level and how much they've trained. So he really has been observing each and every one of them in detail. See, Rimmer said. All you needed to do was come here. You passed Dorian. The boy was now clinging to the instructor's leg, trembling. However, you still lack confidence in your own skills. I advise you to hold your head high and face things from now on. After completing the test, Dorian immediately threw up. Rimmer was also sweating. Well, I think you've heard enough. Alright, next person. And so the test continued in an orderly fashion. Buren Zieghardt. Yes, the boy shouted loudly and clearly. Let's get started right away, Rimmer said. Rimmer's serious eyes seemed to see through the very essence of the young Buren. The pressure he created this time was just as strong as it had been for the others. He wants me to walk over to him while enduring this. It's completely different from how it looked from the outside. How did Runan manage to get through this? The strong pressure also forced Buren to his knees. I can't take another step. You certainly have talent that completely surpasses the others. The number of people who can stand up to you among the 160 trainees here can be counted on one hand. However, Rimmer began to lecture, you, like the other trainees who follow you, have wasted your time. What is the point of honing your swordsmanship when you lack a goal? What you should have been doing was not practicing your swordsmanship, but training your body and your will. You always rely on your aura when things get difficult. If you use it now, you will fail immediately. Hearing Instructor Rimmer's warning, Buren told himself, I cannot fail here. There's no way I can forget that time. The time when my father refused to let my brother in. I can't forget his cold eyes. If I can't overcome this, I'll be thrown away too. After a moment of reminiscing, Buren shot up. He pushed himself with all his might towards Instructor Rimmer. Finally, he succeeded. Buren grabbed Instructor Rimmer's calf. At the same time, the instructor announced, you passed. You are still just a 12-year-old boy. I want you to stop acting like an adult, and train at a pace appropriate for your age. If the only thing you do is look forward, you'll never notice the sharp thorns piercing through your feet. After saying these words, Rimmer felt as if a weight had been lifted, as he had finally been able to reach the heart of this arrogant student. Now, Rimmer turned to the other contestants to continue the test. Yes. As his name was called, Ron slowly stepped forward. He seemed very confident and ready. The two, teacher and student, faced each other. You're the last one. Are you ready? Of course, sir, Ron replied with great confidence. Then let's begin. This time, the green light emanating from Instructor Rimmer was much more powerful. It was like a fierce wave shooting straight at Ron. The pressure radiated over a wider and stronger range, and even the people around them could feel a little of it. His mother exclaimed in worry, Ron, what kind of monstrous pressure is that? Even Glenn was surprised by this level. Is this really his test? Ron stood firm before the instructor's terrifying pressure as if nothing was wrong. I don't know either, but the talent I see in you is definitely a cut above Runan and Buren, Rimmer said with a radiant smile. Try to withstand this. Instructor Rimmer glared at Ron. Ron also began to sweat, raising his hands to brace himself. The soul's level is not something contained within the body, but in the realm of the spirit. And right now, I don't just have the soul level of Ron Zieghardt, I also have the level from my past life as an assassin. Ron began to walk towards Rimmer. The sight before him made Instructor Rimmer's eyes widen in surprise. He can overcome this much pressure. Even his grandfather was surprised by the sight. How can you? This is completely absurd. Right at this moment, it was Instructor Rimmer who was stammering. Something that should be beyond the realm of impossibility. Ron gently placed his hand on Instructor Rimmer's stomach. Everyone in the stand stared in astonishment as they saw Ron overcome such terrifying pressure. The most surprised were probably Rimmer and Glenn themselves. Ron smiled confidently. Is the test over, sir? The other trainees were amazed. Did he just walk through that pressure? No way. Did he break it? That kid. The entire venue was abuzz with chatter. Even Instructor Rimmer was now standing there, stunned. A cripple with no aura. How did he? Ron stood there, waiting for the instructor's verdict. Hey, Instructor Rimmer finally spoke up. What are you? He frowned. I have been observing you train for the past 6 months. Sir. I'm asking because you did better than anything I've taught you in the past 6 months. I created a pressure that was beyond your capabilities. I was intentionally causing trouble, but I never expected you to be able to get through it. Rimmer didn't hold back and spoke his thoughts plainly. Ron shook his head and gestured towards the stands. Instructor Rimmer suddenly seemed to snap out of it. I know, he returned to his usual cheerful demeanor. Ha ha ha, it seems the head instructor got distracted. Ron Sieghart is the last contestant. The selection of official trainees has concluded. I will now announce the top trainees that you have all been curious about. The top trainee of the number 5 training ground is. Everyone was anxiously awaiting the final result from Instructor Rimmer. Ron Sieghart, oh my, our Ron got first place. Lady Sylvia, young Master Ron did it. Ron's mother burst into tears of joy. I can't believe it. Ron Sieghart is the top trainee. If he broke through that pressure, then it must be. But how did he surpass young Master Burin? The crowd was still buzzing about the result Instructor Rimmer had announced. Suddenly, a voice cut in. I do not accept it. This is not right. You are lying, sir. Burin disagreed with the result. Seeing this, Instructor Rimmer asked, lying about what? In terms of stamina, strength, and talent, Ron is inferior to me. I do not accept that someone like him can be the top trainee, Burin argued. He clearly cheated. That does sound plausible. The audience also began to show their agreement. How can he be at the top with the Curse of Frost? I heard he doesn't even have an aura. Or maybe he bribed the instructor. The gossip went further and further. Rimmer grew tired of hearing it. If you go by the rumors about Instructor Rimmer, it seems plausible. We are all warriors of the Sieghart family. Instead of a test like this, I think we should have a sparring match to decide who passes, Burin suggested, pointing at Ron. Rimmer just chuckled. You want the top trainee position that badly, Burin Sieghart? Hit right where it hurt, the boy stammered. No, that's not it, sir. Unfortunately, the test is over. Plan head, what do you think we should do? Rimmer passed the responsibility to Glenn. He just frowned, not yet making a decision. Finally he said, Ron Sieghart, the others do not seem to accept this result. Do you want to spar with Burin? Burin, standing behind, smirked triumphantly when he saw the clan head suggest a match. But the answer he got from Ron was, no, sir. The test is over, and the result is in. Why should I have to fight him for no gain? You who always mouths off about the direct line and honor, Burin. I didn't think you would lose so pathetically, Ron said tauntingly. You bastard. Ron's taunt made Burin's face flush with anger. Then let's do this. Fight for the top trainee position. If you win, I will give you a bronze tablet. Glenn understood the intention, and raised the reward. A bronze tablet. Ron immediately thought about the reward the clan head had offered. The Sieghart clan bestows gold, silver, and bronze tablets according to each person's achievements. Each tablet corresponds to a different reward, even if it's just a bronze one. But a tablet bestowed directly by the clan head. I'll probably get something decent. It seems he isn't happy about me getting first place either. I understand, Ron said, having accepted the duel with Burin for the clan head's reward. Glenn announced, then let's begin. This time, it will decide the most talented trainee. This is a one-round duel. Anyone who uses aura or a weapon will be disqualified. Only hand-to-hand combat is allowed. Rimmer began to explain the rules of the duel to the two contestants. Alright, Instructor Rimmer's voice boomed. Begin. After the instructor's command, Ron and Burin immediately rushed into battle. Burin was the aggressor, throwing a punch straight at Ron's face. Fortunately, Ron managed to dodge it in time. But after dodging, what awaited him was a follow-up kick. Ron eventually had to raise his hands to block the blow. Just that alone made Ron's arm ache. This is the tiger's claw fist that my father personally taught me. There's no rule against using fist techniques, so this isn't against the rules. Burin shouted, his fists beginning to glow. Ron took the blow head-on. There was a loud thud. As expected of young Master Burin, that kid Ron can't move anymore. The trainees watching the fight cheered excitedly. Someone weaker than me from a branch family. Burin continued to think and see. How dare you aim for my position as the top trainee? He began to have a flashback. Forget it, Burin. The Sieghart clan doesn't need weaklings. That was the memory of when his father had disowned Burin's older brother. Don't disappoint me, Burin Sieghart, his father had also reminded him. Now, back in the present, it was a psychological burden for Burin. Father is watching me. I have to prove myself. I can't lose to someone like you here. Burin continuously pressured Ron, but Ron managed to block most of it. With every fist technique thrown, Ron tried to dodge as closely as possible to conserve energy. Right now, Ron was extremely focused. I can see from his fists to his rhythm. All of his attacks are crystal clear before my eyes. Have you given up yet, Ron Sieghart? I will finish you with this blow. Burin shouted and lunged forward. This time, Ron had taken a stance, also preparing to throw a punch. Why should I surrender? He clenched his fist. A powerful punch came from Ron's side. The two fists collided. As a result, Buren was sent flying. Ron's punch continued and slammed straight into Buren's chest. What is this? Buren's right fist trembled, while Ron continued to clench his right hand, preparing to throw another punch. It was as if the air itself was condensing around this one fist. A direct punch, and Buren was sent flying. He was beaten to a pulp. No way, the audience gasped. That was the tiger's claw. Fist pow. They all shouted in unison. Even Glenn was surprised by the result. How? How do you know the tiger's claw fist? Buren recognized Ron's familiar final blow, and managed to ask. He showed me, Ron simply replied. I just copied your fist technique. Did he just use the tiger's claw fist? This is absurd, how could he possibly use the tiger's claw fist? The audience roared at the unexpected conclusion. Or was he secretly taught it? If not, then how? Some people also started to speculate. This is impossible, no matter how you look at it, it's an impossible feat for the young Ron. Buren collapsed before Ron, under the watchful eye of Instructor Rimmer. This kid really has talent, even Instructor Rimmer couldn't have imagined such a scenario. This kid was able to nullify the spin of the tiger's claw fist by creating a fist technique with an opposing spin. Just being able to read the opponent's martial path is enough for the world to call you a genius. But he was even able to turn that direction into a skill of his own. This is the kind of talent that can stand at the pinnacle of this continent. This is what the Zeheart House is looking for. Ron's image shone brightly in Rimmer's eyes. You are a heaven-sent talent. I think this match is over. As you can all see, the result is quite clear. Instructor Rimmer spoke up to end the match. The winner is Ron Zeheart. With this, today's test has come to an end. As soon as she heard the result, Sylvia and Helen ran down from the stands to celebrate. Ron was surprised. Sylvia rushed in and hugged Ron tightly. At this moment, the boy was also deeply moved. Helen was also crying tears of joy. Only Wrath was circling around, complaining of hunger and wanting to go home. In fact, the other students were also being picked up by their parents. Runan's parents were also crying and hugging their daughter. Only Buren was being helped up by his butler. He looked anxiously in his father's direction. He was just watching from a distance before turning and leaving. Seeing this, Buren broke into a cold sweat. It was clear his father was very disappointed with this result. Bright lights shone in the dark of night from a room in the magnificent castle. That brightly lit room was the office of Buren's father. A sad expression was still clearly visible on Buren's face. In the gloomy silence, a voice cut in. Buren. Yes, father. Do you remember what I told you? Buren replied, you told me to come back with the title of top trainee and never to lose to anyone. Yes. That wasn't too much to ask. I told you to defeat the Sullian clan and, after trampling on that Ron kid, to come back with the title of the top of the class. Buren's father swiveled his chair to face him. Forget about the Owen family. You lost to that piece of trash that was thrown out of the main family. The father clearly showed his anger and disappointment at the result Buren had achieved today. Are you trying to make a fool of me or something? Or do you want your fate to be the same as your two older brothers? These words terrified Buren. He mumbled, no, sire. You have already ruined your first chance. They will choose the top of the class after giving points to the students at the end of graduation. Make sure you bring that position back to me, Buren's father instructed carefully once more. Go. In the end, his father dismissed him. Buren could only bow his head and accept the order. Yes. If you still want to live under the Zeheart main family, do not fail in this last chance. These words haunted Buren's mind. Damn it, he punched the wall, venting his frustration. It's all because of that cursed bastard. I can't believe all of this happened because of that trash Ron. Buren glared and gritted his teeth. Damn it, how did things turn out like this? I will definitely train harder so that I will never lose again. While speaking, Buren walked on unsteadily. While walking and thinking, Buren had arrived at the training ground. He peeked inside and then wondered, why am I here? Did I come here unconsciously while I was thinking? Buren gently pushed open the door and entered the empty training room. Is no one here because the test just ended? Buren sat down and picked up a weight, thinking about something. Suddenly, something caught his attention. That attention was drawn to the storage area for the trainees' training equipment. But that wasn't what caught his eye the most. What caught Buren's attention the most was the personal locker with Ron's name on it. Buren approached the trainees' personal storage lockers. It'll be fine if I just take a peek, right? Right. It's not like I'm stealing anything. I'm just looking. Curiously, Buren opened the locker, and then his eyes widened. What is this? What's with all these shoes? Inside Ron's personal locker were shoes, and lots of them. Even at a rough count, there were more than 10 pairs. Did he go through all of these in just 6 months? I've only had to change my shoes twice. Holding a pair of shoes in his hand, Buren thought, looking at the bench where he had been sitting just now. Buren could picture the image of Ron sitting there, training. Buren had a realization. That's right. Now that I think about it, he was always training. While I was skipping the basics and swinging a sword to show off to others, or when I was relaxing comfortably in my own room. Although he exudes the very essence of the Zeehart family, I was doing the complete opposite. After a moment of thought, Frieren snapped back to reality. The space became desolate again. The weights were still in the same place, with no one using them. Frieren picked up the shoes, put them back in their place, and then closed the locker. Frieren then turned and left. He looked up at the night sky, his face becoming more serious. Oh my god, I can't believe it. In all my hundreds of years, I've never met anyone like you. At this moment, Ron was sitting alone in his room, checking the system again. What are you? Wrath asked curiously. Ron replied indifferently. Who knows? You can think whatever you like. First of all, tell me what this trait is. Ron pointed to the system screen, where information was being displayed. You have won the wager with Wrath. The reward will be given to the winner. All skill points increased by 2. The one possessed by Wrath will receive a random trait. Trait: Snowflake's Intuition 1 star has been created. Wrath explained, Snowflake's Intuition. You got a trait that's too good for your mediocrity. This trait has the ability to increase your range of perception. It's only 1 star now, but it can still be increased by about 10. The Great Wrath's perception is 10 times that of the original. Ron marveled. Really? That's great. But why is it called Snowflake's Intuition? Ron continued to question Wrath. I named it that because I like it. Does it not sound good? Ron walked away, not forgetting to tease. No matter how I think about it, you're terrible at naming things. You have the nerve to say that. Wrath was furious. The next morning, while Ron was talking with his mother, he suddenly received a notification from the butler. The clan head summons you, young master. Sylvia was worried. He's summoning him. Did Ron do something wrong? The butler immediately reassured her. Aha, my lady, don't worry. The butler's attitude seemed to indicate that it wasn't too bad. The clan head just wants to personally bestow the bronze tablet on the young master. At this time, Glenn was waiting for Ron to arrive. Ron knelt down in a bow. Greetings, clan head. Although I don't like it, I will still keep my promise. Glenn said, and the butler understood. Yes, clan head. The butler brought the bronze command tablet and presented it to Ron. Ron Zeehart, as promised, you will be bestowed a bronze command tablet. In the future, when you return it, you will receive an item or a corresponding privilege. Ron carefully received the command tablet. Holding the tablet in his hand, Ron thought about what he should do with it. It didn't take long for Ron to express his desired request. Then I have a request right now, sir. The butler looked at Ron with a curious gaze, wondering what Ron's request would be. Ron's request about him. What must I do to restore my mother's former position? Both of them were confused after hearing Ron's request. Her original position. You mean her position in the direct line? Glenn asked again. Yes, sir. Seeing Glenn's attitude, Ron was also a little surprised. It seems he has suddenly softened. What's going on? Achievements, Glenn replied without hesitation. If you achieve something that the entire family recognizes, it is possible. But it's not that simple. Gaining the recognition of others is as difficult as plucking a star from the sky, almost impossible. Especially for a brat like you. Hearing Glenn's words, Ron looked at the command tablet in his hand again. But you said it was possible, he said confidently. Ron placed the command tablet back on the reward tray, to the butler's surprise. Then that's it. Thank you for your answer, clan head. Ron was disappointed that he did not get what he wanted, and turned to leave. Wait. Glenn called out. Hearing that, Ron politely turned back and replied, Yes, sir. You still haven't asked about your reward. That was just a question. You don't need a command tablet, I can still give you the answer, Glenn said. Ron was quite surprised to hear what the clan head had just said. I never expected to hear these words from the King of Destruction of the North. State your wish, Glenn repeated once more. Then there is something I have thought of, something I need the most. As Ron thought, he clenched his fist. I want a cultivation technique, sir. As soon as Ron said it, Glenn immediately replied, the instructors will teach you that when you begin basic training. I need a better spirit cultivation technique than the one taught in basic training. Please grant me a cultivation technique worthy of the bronze command tablet. Ron placed a hand on his chest, and repeated his request. My dark spirit cultivation technique from my past life is not enough. To restore Sylvia's position and behead Duress, I need a more outstanding and powerful aura. So what you want is a cultivation technique, is that right? Glenn said slowly. With a snap of the clan head's fingers, a massive door opened before Ron. It was probably a library. So many books were displayed here. Ron was overwhelmed, unable to believe so many books were kept here. Rows of bookshelves were stacked so high they reached the ceiling. Ron was bewildered. This is one of the Zeehart family's bookshelves. If you place your hand on them, Central position, the book you need will appear immediately, Glenn explained. He understands, Sir Runud. After being instructed, Ron immediately followed suit to find the book he desired. Just something better than the dark spirit cultivation technique will do. Hopefully, something useful will appear. Suddenly, a bright light shone from Ron's hand. Waves of light flowed through the neatly arranged rows of books on the shelves. The wave of light brought a book out from the shelf. The book floated in the air and appeared before Ron. Ron wondered to himself, what is this old, tattered book? Everything that was happening surprised everyone, to the point that Glenn had to exclaim, what is this? How did you get that book? He shouted. The book gradually came closer to Ron, and then it opened on its own. This book it. Cultivation of 10,000 Flames. What kind of technique is this? Ron placed his hand on the book. At that moment, the book shone brightly, and then its pages flipped continuously before exploding. Pages scattered everywhere. Ron instantly became the center of a vortex, surrounded by pages of the book. It seemed that at this very moment, Ron was absorbing the knowledge within the book. Glenn just stood there, glaring at what was happening before his eyes. He was utterly stunned. Do you think Sylvia is ostracized by the people in the family? Glenn remembered the past. It's not something I need to know. The prosperity of the family is the top priority right now. Go and do something else. Sylvia is close with another man and has run away from home. Why are you reporting such trivial matters to me? After days of only thinking about the family and putting feelings aside, I have built an army that can overcome the wall of demons. My family has grown stronger and stronger. So what have I lost? Then, one day, bad news arrived. Sir, there is a report that your son-in-law and granddaughter have been attacked. The attackers seem to be the twin demons from Eden that Lady Sylvia was investigating. Lady Sylvia seems to be unharmed, but the other two died on the spot. Reporting, because the attack was so sudden it was impossible to. The clan head's eyes now grew increasingly angry. How pitiful. I finally have feelings again, but things can't go back to the way they were. So Ron, even if I am hated by you and Sylvia, this time, I must protect you. Back in the present, Ron was standing with his face to the sky, his arms outstretched to receive each page of the book. What is this? My body and mind are being pushed and pulled by them. Suddenly, a voice cut in. Ron Zieghart. Snapping back to reality, Ron was still standing in front of his grandfather. Glenn. He said. What did you just do? His grandfather asked. Ron answered honestly, I don't know, sir. I only remember the cultivation manual disappearing from my hands. What was the name of the book? Ron tried to remember. He looked at his hand and replied, it was Cultivation of 10,000 Flames. At this point, the system board had also appeared. Cultivation of 10,000 Flames. You must face the eternal flame. You have memorized the entire Cultivation of 10,000 Flames. You say you remember the contents. Glenn stood up and asked again. Ron replied, yes, sir. I understand, he said, relieved. All right, you have received your reward for the bronze command tablet. Now you may go. Yes, sir, Ron replied. Ron left, but he still felt worried. Glenn and the butler watched Ron until he was completely gone. Glenn nodded in confirmation. Yes. He continued to recall the past. It is the cultivation technique of the first clan head. In the history of the Zieghart clan, no one has been able to take out or read that cultivation manual. I never thought the boy would learn the cultivation of 10,000 flames. If this gets out, young Master Ron and Lady Sylvia could be in danger, right? The butler worried. Glenn said, you don't have to worry. No one knows about the cultivation of 10,000 flames. The cultivation manual is gone, so what now? It's fine. It has been passed on to someone else. After receiving the cultivation technique, Ron was pleased with the result. Anyway, no one has been able to learn the cultivation of 10,000 flames. If it wasn't passed on to the boy, it would have been lost to time anyway. Glenn looked up at the library and said to himself, I have a feeling a new wind will blow in the future. At this time, after returning to his room, Ron was sitting in contemplation. No matter how I think about it, this is too strange. Why did he give me this? Not to mention a silver tablet, even a gold tablet would not be enough to exchange for this cultivation technique. Ron wondered about his grandfather's actions. This is no less than the Ring of Fire. I must learn it properly. However, in the dark space, Ron was walking towards a spark of fire. Curiously, Ron reached out to touch it. Before long, the spark was nestled in Ron's hand, and he was now feeling it. But unfortunately, Ron was unsuccessful. He couldn't hold on to the spark, and let it disappear. It failed again. Even though I've tried many times, it's so hard to accumulate spiritual energy. I didn't expect to be able to learn this high-level cultivation technique in one go. But Ron's train of thought was interrupted by wrath. You seem to be having trouble. Go all out. You have to be careful. If you are interrupted by someone else while you are cultivating, it will be a big problem. It would be very sad to become crippled after just touching the cultivation technique, he reminded. What is this guy plotting? Wrath is right. The cultivation of 10,000 flames absorbs the energy of nature, and accumulates spiritual energy in the energy center. If I am interrupted at a critical moment, my mana circuit or my energy field could be severed, and I would become a cripple. It's even more dangerous for me because my mana circuit contains ice energy. Well, if you know that, then don't interfere, Ron warned. Wrath also narrowed his eyes and smiled. I don't know what will happen. Wait, don't tell me. Suddenly, Ron had an idea. Just once. Let the great Wrath interrupt you just once while you are cultivating, Wrath said with a strange smile. It wouldn't be very fun for you to have to use a crippled body, Wit. It doesn't matter, Wrath replied unexpectedly. You are immortal, so you can't overcome it. But even if your limbs are severed or your energy center explodes, the great Wrath can restore everything. When you are crippled and give up everything, that will be the great Wrath's best chance. You see, you said just once, right? I'm looking forward to seeing what trick you pull this time, Ron. Provoke. You're bluffing again. Tremble in fear every day. Because you don't know when the great Wrath will attack. Wrath circled around, leaving a threat for Ron. Through the conversation, Ron had realized Wrath's intentions. This guy is really an enemy. He is a demon from the demonic realm, always ready to possess my body whenever he has the chance, and he is the embodiment of rage. I thought he was quiet because he had given up on that idea. From now on, I have to be wary of him. Ron sighed. Alright, let's put that aside for later. I need to deal with something more urgent first. Are you finally going to deal with her? Ron nodded and walked towards the window. Yes. It can't be a coincidence. She comes here every night. Ron and Wrath looked through the window. I have to deal with her, he thought to himself. It's been a long time since I practiced my old profession. In the dark of night, a maid was sitting on a patch of empty ground by the lake, doing something. Unclear. I have nothing to report, except that he keeps mumbling to himself. But this time, I really have something to report. This person was the maid of the annex, Yua. I can't believe he could get such a high-level cultivation technique with just that bronze command tablet. And the flow of mana was extremely fierce while he was cultivating his spiritual energy. Unbelievable. This is truly important information for the Central Martial Palace. It's an order, so I have to do it, but he's just a child. I don't know how much longer I can deceive him. After finishing writing the letter, Yua folded it, and let it float down the water. Then she sighed. Now back to. Suddenly a knife was held to her throat. If you dare to open your mouth, I will kill you, the newcomer threatened. If you dare to move, you will also die. While speaking, this person moved closer to Yua. Lower your gaze and look down at the lake. Yua felt helpless, sweat pouring down her forehead. Who is he? Who could emit such a murderous aura? Yua trembled and followed the instructions. Looking down at the surface of the lake, she could see the face of the person holding the knife to her throat. Ronzigor. How did this brat follow me? She was surprised. Ever since I returned to this annex, I have felt your prying eyes. So, have you gotten any information yet? Ron asked. Impossible, he knew all along. Yua swallowed. I thought I didn't leave any traces. So he was just pretending not to see. Why? Open your mouth. Ron pressed the knife closer to Yua's throat. The threat was ineffective. Ron stuffed a pill into Yua's throat. Ew. The pill immediately slid deep down her throat. Yua immediately felt something disgusting happening inside her body. She collapsed to the ground, trying to vomit but couldn't. At this moment, Ron noticed the letter floating in the water. He picked it up. Ron opened the letter, only to see strange characters. He turned and asked, I can't read the contents of this letter. This type of paper requires a special way to be read, doesn't it? Water, earth, fire, wind, moonlight, sunlight. Yua heard Ron read the contents of the letter and just frowned in annoyance. He clutched her stomach. So it's moonlight. At this point, Ron's words startled Yua. How did you know? Ron didn't bother to answer, continuing to read the contents of the letter. Zr. Karen, Dale, Sausternzihart Swordhair, Ron concluded. Yua was immediately terrified. Impossible. My expression didn't show any flaws at all. I spent years training to become an expert spy. Just by reading my expression, he couldn't have read that much. Yua was terrified by Ron's discovery. Wait. No. The excruciating pain in my body. The fact that he can so easily read my thoughts. Yua suddenly had an idea. There's only one way to explain this. The thing he stuffed down my throat. Could it be a mind control insect? Infiltrate the annex and send me all the information about Ron and Sylvia, Karun had ordered Yua before. If you carry out this mission well, I will give you that thing. Back in the present, Yua made a guess. Did you feed me a mind control insect? Oh, you even know about mind control insects? Ron was surprised. The fact that you know about mind control and sex surprises me. Ron's words made Yua suddenly feel desperate. She uttered a few sounds and then covered her mouth, trying to vomit everything in her stomach, but to no avail. By inserting it into the target's body, the poisoner can know not only their location but also their thoughts. The frenzy worm is one of the most terrifying curses in this world. The poisoner can kill their target whenever they wish, with the most excruciating pain imaginable. Her expression left no doubt, it was exactly the frenzy worm. The knowledge of this curse only amplified Yeti's fear. You sent this letter to Karan Zieghart, so you must be a spy sent from the house of Zieghart, and this mission must have begun 7 months ago. After the judgment ceremony, you investigated me thoroughly, didn't you? Ron turned to speak to Yeti. Not just me, but my mother, Sylvia, and all the other maids as well. As he spoke, Ron gave an enigmatic smile. Yeti couldn't believe Ron knew everything she had done. I thought this was a simple mission. Just gather information about the child Ron and the crippled Sylvia. I thought I could complete it easily. But a monster was living in this annex building. In Yeti's eyes, the sickly boy Ron was no more. I will change the content. I'll report false information, Yeti shouted in fear. Ron waved his hand dismissively. Forget it. Even if you change the intelligence, Karan will eventually find out about me anyway. It will only make him realize your incompetence, he said, stepping in front of Yeti. Then, Ron stared deep into Yeti's eyes with his crimson gaze. From now on, you will be a double agent, he declared. You will report to him any information he would soon discover anyway, while hiding the important details and revealing them to no one else. In return, you must bring me valuable information from his side. Ron laid out the entire mission in one breath. Fine, I will do as you wish. In her current situation, Yeti had no other choice but to agree to Ron's demands. Ron was satisfied with her acceptance. The next time we meet, I expect useful information, Ron said before departing. Leaving Yeti collapsed on the floor, too terrified to stand. On the way back, Wrath curiously asked Ron, how did you summon a frenzy worm? Ron replied, I would never use something so disgusting. I fed her a poison pill that causes temporary, intense pain. Wait, does that mean you read her thoughts just now? Wrath's eyes widened. Ron answered nonchalantly, you can probe others based on a few factors. Others might not see it, but I can. Hearing this, Wrath's face darkened. He was beginning to see the person before him in a new light. This one is a true demon. After that, while I was still engrossed in my training, the day to return to the training grounds arrived. Despite my relentless efforts, I still hadn't been able to create an aura by the day of departure. At the training grounds, everyone was talking excitedly. Ron thought to himself, 42 people pass. Only a quarter of the original number remains. Rimmer is certainly strict about results. Ron, a voice called from behind. It was Runen. As before, the two faced each other, hesitating, neither speaking first. Runen was thinking about something, recalling her mother's words. So, young Master Ron helped our daughter with her training. A few days prior at the Sulian family estate, Runen was relaxing and eating pastres when she heard the question. Yes, she replied. The silver-haired woman sitting opposite her asked, did you greet him and say thank you? When he gave me snacks, yes. What about when he helped you with your training? Runen answered casually, no. Her mother asked again, why not? Father told me not to speak to boys first. The mother's eyes narrowed into a smile. Ah, how they see. Runen, when expressing gratitude, gender is not important. If you have received help, you must always show respect and gratitude. That is common courtesy. Runen was taken aback by her mother's lesson. Remember that, won't you? Runen carefully committed the advice to memory. Remembering her mother's words, Runen finally spoke. Thank you. Oh, sure. Ron was surprised by the sudden thanks from Runen. Wait. Is she suddenly saying thank you? Wrath appeared and asked. Ron's face twisted as he mumbled, I don't know, how would I know? Having successfully expressed her gratitude, Runen turned and left as if she had achieved a great victory. At that moment, from not far away, another voice called out. Young Master Ron. Dorian whined, Young Master, how have you been? As for me, I thought I was going to die. Just as a provisional trainee, I felt like I was at death's door. I can't imagine how much harder it will be now, as an official trainee. I keep having nightmares. I couldn't sleep a wink last night. I was so scared I wouldn't make it. By the way, it's really. The barrage of complaints hit Ron's ears, and his face went blank. Even Wrath found it annoying. You talk too much. But I'm so glad that young Master Ron is the top trainee. If Buren had been number 1, I would still be ranting. From behind Dorian, a familiar boy appeared. It was Buren. Seeing the face of the person he had just been badmouthing, Dorian panicked. Perhaps what Dorian said didn't bother Buren. He walked past him towards Ron. The two looked at each other, waiting to see who would speak first. Buren bowed his head slightly. I apologize. I admit my defeat last week. It showed everyone a shameful side of myself. The action took Ron by surprise. However, I will not give up, Frieren affirmed. No matter how much effort it takes, I will stand before you as an equal, Frieren declared. I will not retreat, nor will I give up. With that, Frieren turned and walked away coldly. Wrath appeared immediately. Once Frieren was far enough away, Ron murmured, I can't believe a 13-year-old boy knows how to admit his mistakes. He's been well taught by a great family. He got beaten to a pulp and still doesn't know his place. Go follow him and gouge his eyes out. Wrath shouted, still furious. It's good enough as it is. Calm down, Ron had to intervene. Who cares about that? Wrath was still fuming. Just then, a voice cut through the air. Sorry I'm late. Instructor Rimmer walked in, scratching his head in embarrassment. He had overslept after having a little too much to drink the night before. Did you all get a good rest? First, congratulations on becoming official trainees. We will begin official training from today. Overall, it will be similar to before, but a few new training programs will be added. For the first session, we will learn about the method of cultivating aura. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. A long-haired woman entered, drawing everyone's attention. Her opening line was a curse. Damn it, this door just wouldn't open. Almost got into trouble. Dorian was flustered at the sight of her. Rimmer just smirked. You finally made it. Everyone, pay attention. I'm not the one in charge of her guidance, but she is a trainee who failed the previous term. Since you will all be training together from now on, please say hello. The woman introduced herself. Martha of the direct line of Sieghart. She may seem that way, but she's a very kind girl, Rimmer said, but was immediately cut off. First off, who's the top trainee? Martha looked around and asked. I can't let someone of a lower class stand above me. I need to see which bastard is holding that position. Some eyes started to focus on Ron. Come out here. Let's have a match. Martha looked around with eager eyes and declared her challenge. Why don't we have a fight right now? Martha walked around, provoking. Is the feng shui bad or something? Why do I always get stuck with people like this? Ron sighed in frustration. I am Ron Sieghart. I am the top-ranked trainee. Ron stepped forward. Martha let out a delighted oh. You don't look like a top-ranked trainee at all. Alright then. Martha began to size Ron up. She cracked her knuckles. No need for words. A fight will tell all. Martha Sieghart, Frieren interjected. Why are you so rude? Martha snapped. Does this little brat know how to speak to a senior? She angrily approached Frieren, about to say something. If you say such foolish things again, you'll die instantly. You better choose your words more carefully next time. Martha threatened him, but Frieren was not one to back down. Ron Sieghart was recognized as the top trainee in front of the patriarch and the instructors. Are you saying you doubt their decision? I thought you were the one who made a fuss about that, weren't you? Martha deliberately brought it up again. That's why I did it, Frieren retorted unexpectedly. I don't want to see that shameful version of myself again, he declared. Watching from the side, Ron thought to himself, Frieren has really changed. Suddenly, Runan jumped in front of Ron, her purpose unclear. She immediately spread her arms, wanting to protect him from Martha. She said calmly, stay away. Ah, how nice. What a beautiful friendship. Birds of a feather flock together, huh? Martha looked back and forth and mocked them. If I continue this, I'll be the one in the wrong, won't I? Martha scratched her head and walked away. Fine, I'll be the bad guy. But you know, I really. Martha's face twisted into a demonic smile. 8 cowards who hide behind others. They're even more pathetic than the arrogant ones. As soon as the words were out, Martha shot past both Frieren and Runan, appearing right in front of Ron. Both of them turned their heads in shock. Martha swung her right arm, her fist seeming to glow. Ron, with a calm demeanor, deflected the blow with a small movement, causing Martha's punch to miss. Surprise was written all over Martha's face. Up. While Martha was stunned, Ron prepared a counter punch. Martha quickly put up her guard. However, the punch was so powerful that even though she defended, its force sent her flying back several meters. Frieren, witnessing this, couldn't help but gasp in astonishment. What? Rimmer, seemingly having expected it, just smiled without saying a word. Martha, pushed back, was just as surprised as the others, not expecting the punch to be so powerful. Ha! Martha muttered, finding it ridiculous. A dark aura erupted around her body. Martha began to walk towards Ron, each step leaving a terrifying crack on the ground. Don't think you can just walk away after that. Martha was still determined to settle the score with Ron, but Rimmer promptly grabbed her arm and stopped her. When did he get here? Martha was surprised. Rimmer raised an eyebrow and said, Martha, it seems you underestimate me. Even if you think I'm easygoing, don't act as if I'm invisible. Frieren and Runan may have learned aura, but Ron hasn't yet. Don't you think winning with such an advantage isn't something to be proud of? These words hit Martha's pride hard. She began to tremble. I'll let you fight Ron as much as you want after the boy learns aura. Embarrassed, Martha shook Rimmer's hand off. I was about to stop. Anyway. After that, Instructor Rimmer ordered Ron, return to your position, Ron. Yes, sir. What are you doing? How dare you let that wench attack me? You should have torn her limb from limb and imprisoned her in ice for 1,000 years. Wrath angrily berated him. I did fight back, Ron replied. Wrath was still furious. That's not enough. You should have made her head fly from her shoulders, Wrath grumbled, dissatisfied with the outcome. No, now is not the time. Ron's face remained calm as he slowly walked away. It's better to fight when I can get something from her. Using this title of a top trainee to lure her in. In reality, you have your own calculations. Just you wait. Next time, I'll show you a good show, Ron messaged Wrath. Under the sun at the academy's training grounds, the trainees were engrossed in their practice. The instructor's voice rang out. All right, everyone take a 10-minute break. The training seemed very strenuous. As soon as the break was called, Frieren drank the last drop of his water. Sweat was pouring down his face. Just as I thought. This isn't easy at all. Because I've learned the 2-star advanced fist technique, it's not that difficult for me. But 3-star is tough because it requires combining many advanced techniques. But Ron. Frieren looked over at Ron thinking to himself. Even though he had only started a month ago, Ron was still training diligently during the break. Even I took a month to learn the 7-form punch. He only learned swordsmanship at the same time as me. It seemed he wasn't the only one feeling the pressure of Ron's progress. Frieren turned his head to see someone practicing their swordplay frantically. Are you getting left behind too, Martha Zieghardt? He asked. It was indeed her, frantically practicing her swordsmanship. Damn it, Martha said, exhausted, dropping her sword. Ron Zieghardt. Even though this is his first time learning fist techniques, how can he be improving so quickly? While resting, Martha couldn't believe the process. It doesn't look like he learned it beforehand like Frieren or Runen, and his body isn't normal either, with that ice still inside him. How can he train all day with that body? I can't fall behind like this. She ground her teeth in anger. My talent is formidable. That's what everyone said about me. Since being adopted by the Zieghardt family, I have always been a prodigy. I surpassed all the direct and collateral descendants, those useless ones who bragged about being geniuses all day, and then sneered at their despair. I am the genius. I am the best. That used to be me. But now, I'm so worried I can't control it anymore. After training, Martha was walking back when her butler encouraged her. You performed very well today, Lady Martha. Whatever, Martha replied dismissively. The butler watched her go, not knowing what to say. There's no need to worry, my lady, he spoke up. What did you say? Martha spun around, looking annoyed. As is said, because he has shown his good side, people have forgotten. But young Master Ron has no chance of defeating you, my lady, the butler said, directly addressing Martha's fears. He will never defeat me, she repeated. On what grounds do you say that? Seeing that he had caught her attention, the butler pointed out, because young Master Ron has a fatal weakness that he cannot overcome. Clang, swish, it seemed Ron was still training without rest. Theo. He breathed heavily. I want to ask you something. Suddenly, an unfamiliar trainee approached him for help. Could you look at my posture? No, I can't, Ron immediately refused. The others looked disappointed. But his swordsmanship is so good. Suddenly, a girl appeared, clapping her hands. Excellent. I didn't expect you to be able to train with me in such a short time. You're even better than a genius. You learned so fast. It was none other than Martha. She praised him first to get the upper hand. Then her expression immediately changed. But with your mana sensitivity being so weak, all this training is useless. What a pity. Maybe you could at least become a swordsmanship instructor. The other trainees stood by, bewildered. On a bench in the training hall, Instructor Rimmer maintained a calm demeanor, also watching what was happening. No one said anything. Just as I thought. Martha looked around, noticing that her actions were indeed effective. No one thinks this idiot has yet to master aura after 4 whole months. Recalling the previous night, it was the butler who had pointed it out to Martha. Young Master Ron has no talent for aura at all. Martha was surprised by the information the butler provided her. You probably don't know because this happened after you were adopted. But at the evaluation ceremony, young Master Ron's mana sensitivity was at the lowest level. The only one who hasn't learned aura in the 5th training hall is young Master Ron. The bronze plaque will only help him get a decent basic training method, just a little better than the introductory lion training method everyone else gets. But he still hasn't mastered any method, so the results of the evaluation ceremony must be correct. He may be the best at swordsmanship and combat, but if he can't use aura, he can never become a true warrior. Martha smirked triumphantly. I'm still mad about losing to that guy, but he's not even worth my trouble. While she was gloating, she was suddenly startled. Runen, her face dark, had appeared in front of her at some point. Do you want to say something to me? Runan's reply was cold. Go. Ah, is that all? Martha sneered. Go, Runan repeated sternly. Martha didn't bother to argue. I'm leaving. I have to attend the main family's class anyway. Before she left, she made sure to say it loudly. Runan gazed into the distance. It was already dark outside, but the lights in the academy's training hall were still on. On a bench sat the silhouette of a trainee who had just finished a long, hard day of training. It was none other than Ron. That should be enough for today. He let out a heavy sigh. Although sweat was pouring down his face, Ron wore a satisfied smile. This is fun. On the battlefield, I wasn't taught martial arts, but how to survive and kill. Only my assassination skills improved. I couldn't learn anything else. I never expected it would be this enjoyable to learn martial arts for self-development. Have you come to your senses? I can't believe you just stood there while being humiliated. Wrath appeared at that moment, flying around in circles, shouting. Ron calmly asked back, humiliated. That black-haired girl, she kept bad-mouthing you. Wrath explained. Ron replied as if it were nothing. Oh, is that so? I wasn't listening. I was too focused. You need to pay more attention. If she had said that about me, I would have frozen her solid. Wrath blustered. In contrast, Ron remained very calm. I've already told you, there's no benefit in fighting her now. Even without the 10,000 flames technique, I can easily defeat her. As he spoke, Ron walked towards the door. When Ron opened the door to leave, he met Runan. She was holding a box in her hands. It was late at night, so Ron was quite surprised. Why are you standing here? Runan opened the box and offered it to Ron. It was a box of pastries. Eat. Ron took a pastry. A cool, refreshing sensation spread from his fingertips. It's cold. What is this? Eat, Runan simply said one word. Ron was also taken aback. All right. As an assassin, I shouldn't eat things given by others, but she probably wouldn't poison me. The moment the pastry went down his throat, Ron's eyes widened. Whoa, what is this? Wrath was also ecstatic, his eyes wide and mouth agate. In the demon world, I've never tasted anything so sweet. And it's cold too. What is this? How is it? Runan asked. Wrath was like a kitten begging for more. More. I want more. Ron stammered, it's delicious. So delicious. It's ice cream, Runan said, then quickly turned and walked away, leaving Ron confused. Hey, wait, Wrath was still greedy. Give me another one before you go. She's so weird. Why didn't she give me another one? Wrath tried to follow her with his eyes. Even Ron himself didn't understand. Is she worried about me? Runan loves sweets like a child. It seems there were only 4 pieces. It looks like she saved one for me. She must have had a tough internal struggle. Ron smiled to himself. I'll have to thank her later. Wrath also reminded him, then ask her for another one. In the quiet night, voices emanated from the lit castle. I'm back. Ron, you took so long. Why are you so late? You just got back. It's only been a week. Are you hungry? I'll make you something to eat right away. Hurry. This is the report I will send to the Intermediate Martial Arts Hall. Bound was holding a secret letter. He carefully read the contents. What did they say? Ron asked. Edie bowed her head and replied, not much. They ordered me to investigate a bit more because the speed of your progress in swordsmanship and combat skills is too fast, but it seems they've lost interest because you can't use aura. What about my mother? Ron changed the subject. Yeti cautiously replied, I think they are also less interested in Lady Sylvia. At this rate, they will probably recall me soon, she speculated. Ron felt that this was not good. This won't do. He still have a use for her. The maid stammered, young master, are you intentionally not learning aura? Ron was surprised by this question. He smiled mysteriously. Who knows? What do you think? Yeti trembled at his answer. It's nothing, sire. I apologize for asking such an impertinent question. All right, you may leave, Ron ordered. Yeti nodded and replied, yes. After Yeti left, Wrath appeared. To think they'd believe you're intentionally not learning. Ron replied to him, using the situation and environment to one's own advantage is a very clever thing to do. Why is it so hard for you to cultivate aura? I've never had this problem. Wrath honestly didn't understand the current situation. Ron sighed, I don't know either. Well, let's go train. Wrath was startled. What? Again? He fretted. You madman, go to sleep. Ron pushed open the window and stepped outside. I have to train. As he opened the door to go out and practice, Ron froze. In front of him, Instructor Rimmer was sitting and playing with some birds, waiting for him to appear. Instructor Rimmer. Oh, you can't sleep either. Why are you here, sir? Ron asked. Rimmer stood up and answered casually, I came to teach you. He patted Ron's shoulder. I'll let you know your attribute. In the silence of the forest, a footstep appeared. It was Instructor Rimmer. Ron was eagerly waiting for Rimmer's guidance. I thought, you were going to teach me about attributes or something. Why are we just taking a walk like this? Stop complaining, and just wait. I might be a bit lazy, but I'm an excellent teacher, you know, Rimmer answered slowly. How are you going to teach me about mana attributes in a place like this? Ron asked impatiently. Rimmer glanced at him. He still can't forget the first time I saw his cultivation technique. Like a fire as hot as lava, completely different from normal techniques. He tried to adapt to the coldness of his body with the flame instead of removing it from his mana circuit. If Ron can truly master this skill. Rimmer saw Ron suddenly stop and lean against a tree trunk. It seemed Ron was tired. This should be far enough. Ron was bewildered by Rimmer's words. Around the two of them were only trees. Perhaps this was a suitable place for them to train together. In the middle of the forest. Why here? Rimmer raised his hand, and green gusts of wind began to appear, growing stronger and spreading everywhere. The wind centered on Rimmer, swirling like a cyclone. I want to create a wind blade to protect my lord. What you're seeing now, Rimmer began to explain, is the wind I chose. As he spoke, the wind grew even stronger. Ron held out his hand to feel the wind, a hint of nostalgia for the day of the test in his heart. I did weaken it to let you get used to it, but you seemed completely unafraid. You're not a child at all, Rimmer affirmed. I could feel this wind since I was born because I'm an elf, but you're a human. Plus, your mana circuit is filled with cold energy, so it will be harder for you. There are many types of wind, warm, cold, or sharp. I wanted a wind blade that could pierce through anything, and I got it. You must find your own. Think of the flame you want to have. But this is the north. Unless I set this forest on fire, there's no way to see a proper flame, Ron replied in disappointment. Rimmer waved his hand and answered, if we did that, we'd be beheaded on the spot. But then he looked at Ron and gave a strange smile. But there is a place that's perfect for you. As he spoke, the scene shifted to a stone house where someone was sitting by a fire. Hey, old man, I'm here. From outside, Rimmer led Ron into the house. The man by the fire replied, I was wondering why the fire was acting up. So it was you. Looks like tonight's another failure. Rimmer smiled wryly. Ron looked around, breaking into a sweat. Where are we? This is the place with the hottest and brightest flame in the north, Rimmer introduced. A charcoal forge. What did you bring this time? The blacksmith asked. He's the grandson of the family head, Rimmer reminded him of Ron's status. I'm just a retired old man, unless the family head himself comes here. Ron stood to the side, listening to the two talk, his mind seemingly drawn to something else. What? Is this really fire? All his focus was being drawn to the flames in the forge. In my past life, I saw countless flames, campfires I made myself, high-level fire magic created by mages, and so on. But this flame. The temperature, the image. The image of the flame I want to obtain. Unconsciously, Ron reached out to grasp the image of the flame before him. Suddenly, he noticed the flame diminish sharply. He turned his head in surprise and saw the blacksmith laughing. He had lowered the flames. At that moment, he introduced himself. My name is Vulcan. The name stunned Ron. If you want to be polite, you can go somewhere else, Vulcan said bluntly without turning around, shooing Ron away. Vulcan. Ron was still dazed upon hearing his name. The craftsman famous throughout the world for his skill. This is really Vulcan. The one who created Glenn Zieghart's heavenly sword. But he disappeared 30 years ago, and yet he's here. It's a pleasure to meet you, sire. I am Ron Zieghardt. He bowed respectfully and introduced himself. Did you tell him about me? Vulcan turned to ask Rimmer. Not at all, Rimmer replied. That old man is a craftsman of Zieghardt. He's retired. Yes, he's a retired craftsman, but he's been tending the fire here for 10 years. He tends this fire all year so that the children won't see a proper flame anywhere else, Rimmer explained. Could you do me a favor? Rimmer then turned to ask Vulcan. He replied gruffly, why don't you go to the other blacksmiths? There are too many prying eyes there. I don't want others to see this cultivation technique before he masters it. Vulcan was intrigued by Rimmer's request. What do you mean? Because Ron is Sylvia's son. At that, something seemed to change in Vulcan's eyes. He silently turned to look at Ron again. At this moment, Ron also placed his hand on his chest and asked for permission. I won't disturb you, sire. Please allow me to feel this flame. Vulcan just observed Ron without saying anything. I'm making charcoal, he finally said. Golden charcoal creates a much stronger fire than white or black charcoal. I've been doing this here for 10 years. As long as you don't disturb me, you can do whatever you want. These words were his tacit approval. Ron was overjoyed. Thank you, sir. A moment later, Vulcan and Rimmer were standing outside the forge, talking. Rimmer smiled. You're really kind. Though I didn't expect you to agree so easily. If you treat him well, I'll bring you good wine. Rimmer patted Vulcan's shoulder and promised. It wasn't because of you, Vulcan replied unexpectedly. He then spoke the truth. The fire in the forge blazed up when that child walked in, so strong that it broke the charcoal at the bottom. That child has the ability to control fire. If it's him, Vulcan stammered, I think he can make my dream come true. Inside, Ron also began to meditate, preparing to unlock his own cultivation technique. He thought to himself, in the 7 months I've been coming to the forge, I've thought about the image of the flame I want to have. Ron sat motionless. I understand fire now. A blazing fire. They say fire is the most terrifying and powerful element, but if one can control it completely, that's another story. In Ron Zehart's mind, he faced the raging fire, a tamed flame stronger than any element, and the 10,000 flames technique was awakened. The image of Rimmer stood beside him and said, imagine the image of the flame you want to have. This sentence jolted Ron awake. The image of the flame I need. An image of Duress Robert surfaced in his memories as he drifted among his goals. To help Sylvia gain the title of the direct line. The path to his goals was filled with darkness, unable to see anything. The more he thought, the more his objectives appeared before his eyes. A torch to light the way, a flame to defeat the beasts. He drew closer, approaching the flame, which burned even brighter. A persistent flame. He gazed at it, entrance. The more he looked, the more he seemed to understand that this was the flame he wanted. He was almost immersed in it, becoming one with its abundant energy. His physical body was also gradually feeling it clearly. A fire mana stronger than usual is flowing through my body. The heat of this forge is seeping into my skin. I must focus, capture it, feel it a little more. Inside his mind, Ron was amazed by this new power. Is this the state of total immersion? I can see my own subconscious right before my eyes. If I focus a little more. Suddenly a strange blue energy appeared on his left hand. A wicked laugh and a voice spoke, my turn. This thing appeared menacingly, as if wanting to take over Ron's consciousness. Didn't I tell you? I would wait until you were at your weakest. Freeze. Ron was trying to resist. He was utterly shocked. I was too careless. Why did it have to be now? He began to remember that Wrath had been very quiet lately. But he was not his ally, he was a demon. Who wanted to take his life. Facing the demonic presence threatening him once again, he was certain it was the Demon King. He struggled in his mind. Damn it, it feels like my body is breaking into pieces. It's so hard to breathe. He tried to find a way to deal with it. But if I move now, I'll die. But if I stop the 10,000 flames technique, I'll also die. I have to focus my aura. Ron gritted his teeth with determination. He tried to move, but the situation seemed dire as more than half of his body was frozen. To live, I have to use my brain. I need to think. But my mind is so muddled. The Demon King sneered. Your struggle is truly beautiful. What? Do you think you can withstand my power like before? It's useless. Your body and soul are now mine. His eyes seemed to be giving into the demon's power, slowly becoming listless. The Demon King continued to speak words meant to crush the hope in his spirit. All your efforts to live are in vain. You're no different from that man. Working in the forge. He continued, but don't worry. I will surely avenge you. Hearing this, Ron Zehardt suddenly realized something. Forge. The forge, an idea lit up in his mind. Thanks for this addition. In his last glimmer of hope, he tried to seize the all-or-nothing opportunity. If I do nothing, I'll die. Instead of absorbing the natural mana heated by the forge, I'll directly absorb the mana from the forge itself. A fire much stronger and hotter that can swallow everything. Absorb it, he resolved. In his inner world, a blazing red flame appeared. The Demon King, now panicked, screamed, what are you doing? He only replied coldly, just trying to survive. Outside, the old man was adding small pieces of wood to the forge. After finishing, he sat down on the chair in front of it. Suddenly, he noticed something surprising. A flame erupted, forcing him to back away and fall to the ground. He looked at the strange phenomenon and thought, what's happening? Why did the fire suddenly flare up so high? I've never seen such a strong flame before. He looked around the forge. What's going on? Looking at the young man meditating in front of the forge, he didn't know if this was his doing. Ron Zehardt was shivering violently, which made him feel uneasy. How can he be cold when the forge is burning like that? He started to approach, trying to ask, hey kid, are you alright? Seeing no response, he grew even more worried. Why are you shivering like a leaf? Say something. Before he could finish, Rimmer stopped him from getting closer. The old man asked, Rimmer. The red-haired man replied, leave him be. Don't touch him. The old man could no longer stay calm. He questioned, what are you talking about? He could die. Rimmer tried to explain. He's currently in a state of total immersion. There's nothing we can do. If we touch him now, he'll vomit blood and die. Both of them were helpless. Is that the coldness you were talking about? Can't we do anything about it? Rimmer was also helpless. It's not too dangerous, he murmured, though he could only pray. Ron, please don't die. At that moment, inside Ron's mind, he was using all his strength to fight against the deadly cold. As the fire energy enveloped his body, wrath relentlessly attacked his spirit. Stop it now. You can't do anything. Ron Zieghardt fought back fiercely. Nonsense. I've already died a miserable death once. His eyes grew more determined. My past life was meaningless, and I died with regrets. I will certainly not repeat that. The layers of ice solidifying his body could not stop his determination to reach for the flame outside. At that moment, the thermometer maxed out and shattered. The old man panicked. The temperature is too high. At this rate, the forge won't be able to handle such a sudden spike in heat. Rimmer, standing beside him, could do nothing more. He stared intently at Ron, who was sitting before the forge. The mana in the forge is gathering in one place. Ron. You've realized something incredible. Are you absorbing the mana? Inside, Ron Zieghardt let out a fierce roar, and even with all his might, wrath could not stop the boy's will. Finally, after so much effort, he successfully grasped the flame. It caused an explosion both within his mind and in the physical world. The overloaded forge caused the entire house to explode in a cloud of smoke and fire. Rimmer only cared about Ron's condition. He shouted, Ron, are you okay? Answer me. The old man also cried out his name. Ron Zieghardt. After a closer look, Rimmer saw something astonishing. A beautiful flame was enveloping Ron's body. Rimmer immediately recognized the source of that power, a golden flame. Ron Zieghardt reached out his hand to embrace the new source of power. System notification. You have learned the 10,000 flames technique. After that, a series of other notifications appeared. The 10,000 flames technique has risen to 2 stars due to the high temperature. Fire resistance has been created after leveling up. The frost curse has melted. The poor stamina attribute has disappeared. The cold energy has coalesced into the glacier aura. A snowflake appeared in his hand. He raised it and caught it in his palm. The glacier aura has risen to 2 stars due to the cold-blooded wrath. After the crisis, everything had turned out better. He thought to himself, this went better than I expected. I can develop right away. I never thought I would gain so much. He glanced at the system window and was taken aback. Reading the notification board, his expression turned to one of utter disbelief. There were so many achievements that Ron was left speechless. Is this a dream? Did it give me all of this? In just a moment, I've obtained things that should have taken me years to achieve. And he had now become Ron's spirit beast. He cried out, damn it, and flew around in circles, complaining in dissatisfaction. What are you? Your spirit has always been weak, so how could you withstand that? Ron was triumphant. I never said I couldn't. Don't misunderstand. But that didn't mean he let his guard down around this demon. That said, I really almost died this time. I need to be more careful after this, that's for sure. Even if we're a bit closer, he's still an enemy. He was certain he couldn't let Wrath see his weaknesses or secrets. Suddenly a hesitant voice asked, are you okay? It was the old man. Ron turned and said, I'm fine. The old man, still a bit shaken, asked, you've acquired an aura. Ron was very humble. Yes, thanks to you. He then looked at the surrounding ruins. I'm sorry. The forge breaking was my fault. The old man let out a sigh of relief and spoke gently. It's all right. As long as you're okay. I can just build another one. As he spoke, he glanced back at the forge, where a small flame still flickered. Suddenly, he noticed something. Both of them were drawn to it. Ron asked, what is it? The old man wasn't sure what it was either. He walked over, saying, that is. He grabbed a nearby shovel and stuck it inside the forge. Unexpectedly, he pulled out 3 lumps of glittering, golden charcoal. Their beauty was captivating. Golden charcoal. The old man suddenly remembered the past gossip. He's at the forge again. He says he wants to create golden charcoal. People have been buzzing about it behind his back for years. Golden charcoal is just a legend. I thought he retired. He must be bored. He looked at the result of his lifelong search, and said to Ron, it seems you're not the only lucky one. He introduced it while holding out the shovel for Ron to see. This is golden charcoal. It burns stronger than white charcoal and lasts longer than black charcoal. Thanks to you, I've created something I've been trying to make for decades. Thank you. Ron reached out his hand to feel the warmth of the charcoal. I didn't do anything. The old blacksmith nodded. He explained, every time you practiced here, the fire would burn stronger, and your breathing made the flames roar. The heat from it spread everywhere. I'm just a crude man who only knows how to work with a hammer, but I know what you did. It's all thanks to you. He continued, so I want to ask you a question. Ron, what is your goal? Faced with this question, Ron hesitated slightly. The old man rephrased it to make it clear. Yes, what kind of swordsman do you want to become? This time, he gave a firm answer. I want to become a swordsman who never gives up, no matter what opponent I face. This answer made the old man look at him with a new level of respect. I didn't expect a child to say something like that. A swordsman who never gives up. In 3 to 5 years you might have a sword. When you believe your mind is strong and steady enough, come find me. I will save these for that day. The things he was referring to were the glowing pieces of golden charcoal. Ron, not quite understanding, asked, you mean you'll forge a sword for me? I heard you were retired. The old man cut him off. People often come back after retiring. So try to stay alive until then, Ron. The time for their meeting had come to an end. The old blacksmith raised his hand in farewell, wishing him a safe journey. Standing on a high cliff, witnessing their farewell, Rimmer let out a sigh of relief. I was wondering what happened. So the kid finally got his aura. He seemed much more at ease now. He really knows how to make people worry, he said to the person behind him. Am I right, Patriarch? Standing behind him was Glenn, Ron's grandfather. Rimmer broke the tense atmosphere with a smile. He came here every day because you were worried about him. You must be very relieved now. Glenn maintained his stern demeanor. I did not come here out of worry. Rimmer continued, perhaps because of the heat from the forge, the quantity and purity of his aura are extremely high. The boy has already stabilized his aura. He's truly talented. But Glenn replied with a very cryptic statement. This is not good. He has turned his weakness into an advantage. Ron continued on his way, raising his hand to feel a hint of his new power. At the 5th training hall, a girl stood with a box in her hands. It was Runen. She had been waiting anxiously, thinking, Ron, when will you come back? She recalled the whispers about him. Have you heard anything about Ron's aura? It's been 7 months. Maybe he's not as good as the rumors say. Young Master Buren or Lady Martha should take his place. He's probably not that great. She clutched the box in her hands, thinking, I want to help him. Mother said I must repay those who have helped me. Lost in thought, she suddenly looked up towards the gate and noticed something. The gate had opened. Before her stood Ron, who had returned. Without hesitation, she quickly walked towards him. Ron, you're being stubborn. I told you not to push yourself, but this little demon won't give up. Don't get too cocky. He paid no mind to Wrath's nagging and cut him off to shut him up. Yeah, keep it up. When he realized it, Runen was already right beside him. He was curious about her appearance. Runen. She just stood there silently, looking at him, and slowly opened the box. Inside were the delicious pastries she had longed to give to Ron. Runen gently encouraged him. Do your best. She suddenly noticed something new about Ron. He picked up a pastry and said, it's that ice cream from last time. Thanks. She noticed that the cold aura emanating from Ron's body was now much stronger and more pleasant. Ron now had an aura. He gently picked up the pastry and looked at it for a long moment. This time, Ron didn't hold back. He said, thanks, and popped the whole pastry into his mouth. Wrath, flying beside him, was salivating. So delicious, he exclaimed instantly. It's been a while since I had this, but it's still as good as ever. Eat the other two as well. Ron couldn't stand his gluttony and had to whisper a reminder. You do know this is her food, right? Don't be so greedy. Get a grip. With that, he closed the pastry box himself, not forgetting to say, it was delicious, thank you. The girl asked, aren't you going to eat more? Ron politely declined. One is enough for me, thank you. Runen, deeply concerned, asked about his health. Are you feeling better? For a moment, he seemed stunned, and then he let out a sigh. Yes, I'm feeling better. Hearing this, the girl was greatly relieved and replied cheerfully with sparkling eyes, good. Then, she hugged the pastry box and shyly walked away. Watching her disappearing back, Ron just smiled to himself and marveled, what a strange girl. Rimmer stepped onto the announcement platform in the school courtyard. He spoke loudly and clearly to the students, training like this all day must be boring for you all. So, this month, I've prepared something special. You've been practicing fundamentals and cultivation for 7 months. It's time for you all to ignite your energy centers. The students below murmured amongst themselves. Why is he suddenly doing this? I wonder what he's planning. Amidst the chatter, Rimmer just smiled lightly. Then he announced to the group, you will all fight each other for 1 month. It seemed the happiest person to hear these words was Martha. Rimmer continued, the results of these matches will affect your graduation rankings. I advise you all to prepare carefully for the coming month. A hand from below interrupted the instructor. Wait a minute, Martha said with a mocking tone. What about those who are falling behind and still haven't managed to create an aura? Her words made everyone who heard them look towards Ron. Rimmer just smiled gently and replied, fortunately, I heard that those students have also managed to create an aura. Martha was shocked to hear this, muttering, huh? When? Rimmer then answered perfunctorily, maybe yesterday or today, I'm not sure. Martha, feigning understanding, turned arrogantly and said to Ron, finally, a chance. I thought I was going to die of boredom. It's been too long. Hearing those words, Ron remained coldly silent. Taking advantage of the situation, Martha approached and continued, remember what I said. I don't take orders from those weaker than me. She kept issuing her challenge. I've endured you long enough. I'm sure you've had a hard time too, in a position that's beyond you. I'll take this opportunity and deal with you. Before she could say another word, a hand stopped her. The one who stopped Martha from going further was Frieren. He spoke up, telling Martha to back off. He hasn't even had his aura for a full day. Do you have any honor as a swordsman? Being reprimanded like that, she looked furious. Martha clapped Friren's shoulder, her tone still arrogant. Ah, young master Frieren, our honorable young master. Growing up with such prestige, you must value honor greatly. But honor is for those who deserve it. Frieren quickly stopped her from saying more. She pointed to the students behind her and said, those fools learned aura in just 1 month, but our top student took 6 months. Even with an advanced technique, the average is about 7 months. That means this so-called top student is completely in it. You two were at the evaluation together, so you should know. Even Rimmer can't stand Martha's insulting words anymore. She continued, a swordsman who hasn't learned aura can't possibly become famous. No matter how talented their swordsmanship is, without aura, it's useless. I think the instructor came up with this sparring idea because he wants to change the top student, right? After speaking, Martha turned to look at Rimmer. He just shrugged. Who knows? I don't. Martha aimed directly at Ron and said, Ron Zieghart, you've been at the top for too long. It's time for you to step down. So, as I said, let's fight to decide who is number 1. Ron flatly refused. No. Martha's eyes widened in surprise. Ron now spoke up. How can you gamble without any stakes? If you want my top position, you have to offer something of equal value. Martha looked at Ron like he was crazy. Still don't understand your position. No one here is on your side. Without letting Martha continue, Ron issued a challenge with 1 sentence. Are you scared? Ron, with a calm face, smiled as he made his challenge. Martha couldn't believe her ears. What did you just say? Then she clutched her stomach and burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, that's hilarious, really. Ha ha ha, alright, I'll let it slide. You want me to offer something too? This is the heavenly elixir my father gave me. It strengthens the body and the aura. A white pill, like a pearl, was carefully stored inside a luxurious box. Martha held the box out in front of Ron and said, if you win, I'll give you this. How about it? Not bad, right? Ron, as if he had anticipated this, whispered to Wrath. Do you remember when I said we should wait until we can deal with Martha? Wrath asked back, what are you talking about? There's something I want to get from Martha. This is our chance. Ron secretly rejoiced, having achieved his goal. Time flew by quickly. A month later, Martha was alone in her room, holding a calendar with this momentous day circled. It's been a month. Finally, a chance for revenge. She cracked her knuckles, remembering the time she was defeated by Ron. Before coming here, I had never been beaten by someone my age. That was the first time someone had ever defeated me. This is my chance to avenge the humiliation he caused me 8 months ago. The more she thought about it, the more frustrated Martha became. She frowned. That bastard Ron has only been learning aura for a month. He can't possibly win against me, who has been training for 3 years. But waiting for an incompetent like him is just a waste of time. Then she recalled her painful past. I have to get stronger quickly because I need to save someone. Martha's expression was determined. She affirmed with certainty, this is the end for you, Ron. Meanwhile, Ron calmly scrolled through his system window. The time for the competition had finally arrived. Rimmer spoke to the group of trainees, everyone, pay attention. Observing a match is as effective as participating in one. You should watch the other trainees' matches carefully and think about your own moves in advance. Don't worry, just do your best. While the trainees below were sweating bullets, Rimmer announced, the first match is between Frieren and Dorian. Frieren quickly responded, yes, sir. From the crowd below, a trembling hand was raised. Sir. Rimmer replied, what is it? Dorian, his face pale, said fearfully, I surrender. Everyone was stunned. We haven't even started yet. Dorian clutched his stomach and made an excuse. I'm not feeling well. I caught a cold yesterday, so I still have chills and itches all over. And I couldn't sleep last night. Puff, it's true, sir. Wrath, standing behind Ron, was angered by the boy's act. If he were my subordinate, I would have beheaded him on the spot. Ron wasn't surprised. I could see he would do that. Rimmer came over and comforted Dorian. You should try to fight Frieren. You'll definitely learn something, even if you lose. Seeing no other way out, young Dorian had to agree. Yes, I understand. The match ended quickly, and the victory, of course, belonged to Frieren. Dorian lay on the ground, muttering, I surrender. Rimmer approached and reminded Frieren, you still haven't controlled your emotions. If you had fought properly, you would have defeated him in 5 moves. Frieren explained. I was unconsciously angered by his attitude. Rimmer turned back to comfort the boy on the ground. Dorian, why do you keep running away? I told you that you could do it. If you had fought back, you would have lasted longer. But the chubby boy was still pale. I'm sorry, but it was too scary. Rimmer quickly continued the competition. He announced loudly, all right, next. The next pair was introduced. Runen versus Crane. This seemed to be an evenly matched fight. The battle begins. Immediately, Crane closed the distance and swung his sword. Runen stood still, not rushing to dodge. With a swift movement, she drew her sword and deflected Crane's blade with a single strike. Her opponent was surprised by this instantaneous counterattack. Crane's sword was knocked away, flying behind him. Rimmer also called a stop to the fight. That's enough. He came over to give advice. Crane, you're too tense. You need to relax when you hold the sword. And Runen, that was a beautiful counterattack, but your aura still wouldn't have lasted until the end of the match. Runen replied with a single word. Yes. Rimmer didn't dawdle. Next, the students who witnessed this match were all paying close attention. The air was filled with the metallic clang of 2 swords clashing. This match was fierce. It was surely the one everyone had been waiting for. Between the 2 names who had boasted before the fight even began, Martha and Ron. Under Martha's storm-like sword attacks, he responded in kind. Martha attacked with a vertical slash from above. Ron easily blocked it. The force of their swords clashing sent them both flying back. It was beyond Martha's control. While she was still trying to regain her balance, Ron, being quicker, seized the opportunity to strike. Martha was startled by the dangerous attack that could have finished her. But her skills were not to be underestimated, and she managed to dodge the deadly sword strike in time, retreating to a distance and creating a pause in the fight. Martha praised Ron. I didn't expect you to block all of my attacks. I have to admit. You have talent. But your talent is limited to swordsmanship. She pointed out his weakness directly. A fire warrior who isn't good at using aura like you will never be able to shine. She began to use her power, swinging her sword high, her feet pushing off the ground, and she rushed forward, closing the distance as fast as the wind and attacking. With a triumphant attitude, she didn't hesitate to slash down. Ron hurriedly raised his sword to block. Martha's aura power made Ron's defense incredibly weak. She pressed her advantage, her mouth constantly spewing taunts. Oh, you blocked that one. But how long can you keep this up? Talent in using aura is crucial, even more so than swordsmanship. After 7 months, your talent has only produced an aura the size of a pea. At this rate, you have no chance of becoming a warrior. Once again, their 2 swords clashed and were knocked apart. Martha threatened, if you don't surrender, my next blow will shatter your bones. Before she could finish her sentence, Ron's sword was right beside her. She hurriedly used her sword to block the attack. At this point, Ron spoke up. You keep talking about talent. People in your family seem to value their talent a bit too much, don't they? Martha's tone was dismissive. You must find it annoying since you don't have any talent. That's why I want to show you what a true talent can do even more. Faced with these harsh words, Ron simply stated, in that case, I'll show you the opposite. Talent isn't the most important thing. With that, he tightened his grip on his sword, and a red flame erupted around him. Martha witnessed this powerful aura radiating from his body, utterly surprised, and could only utter a single sound. He announced his aura loud and clear. 10,000 flames technique, first flame. Witnessing Ron's incredible power for the first time, the person she had considered useless. What is that flame? It's dangerous, definitely not an ordinary fire. There's something hidden behind those flames. A look of fear now appeared in Martha's eyes. She asked herself, why is it so beautiful that it's chilling? Ron was ready to let everyone see his power. Martha was now slightly shaken, speechless. She resolved to tighten her grip on her sword. I guess I have to get serious too. Her aura was the ultimate point of crystal form, and a brown aura radiated around her. Ron saw it and had to admit, the ultimate point is when you accumulate aura at a single point. At her age, she can already use it. That's impressive. I guess she's planning to put all her strength into the next blow. At this point, Martha became serious. I admit you are very strong, but you won't be able to block this move. Ron was ready, waiting for the next attack from his opponent. Once again, she pushed off and charged straight towards her target to attack. Ron, just waiting for this, launched a counterattack, causing chaos all around. The onlookers were horrified. The ground is cracking. What's happening? The clash of their 2 swords created a cloud of dust that enveloped the area. Everyone around them waited intently for the dust to clear. The dust cloud gradually dissipated, revealing a broken sword blade. The loser lying on the ground was Martha, while Ron was still standing firm. Everyone was shocked. Ron won. No way. Martha lost again. What's with his aura? Ron had clearly won the match. He said a few words to his opponent. They see that even while unconscious, you still clench your fists. You have something even more amazing than skill or talent. It's your mental strength. In another place, Glenn sat on his throne, having just received the news. So, Ron has defeated Martha. Rimmer continued, yes. He defeated Martha completely, even though Martha had been training her aura for 4 years longer. It's truly unbelievable. Glenn had to admit, the flame they saw that day was truly beautiful, like a flower made of fire. Its power far exceeded its size. At this point, he became concerned. I'm sure everyone in the family knows about this now. Guide the boy. Don't let him become arrogant. Rimmer cheerfully accepted. Of course. Glenn didn't forget to ask, but how is Martha? Rimmer reported on her condition. She seems a bit shocked, but her injuries are very easy to heal. The biggest issue is the psychological shock. I hope she can overcome it. In her spacious room, Martha sat huddled on her bed, her knees to her chest, her face dark and lifeless, her head always bowed down. In the garden, a hand was gently planting flowers of a soft pink hue. Ron was trying to plant this flower, with wrath nagging behind him. Can't you be a little more careful? Be more careful, or I'll freeze you. He turned back in annoyance and retorted, you can't do anything. Stop making empty threats. Wrath, feeling slighted, argued back, it's because of your elemental resistance ability. Ron was in no mood to argue with him and simply replied, good thing you know that. In his mind, Ron thought, the night after I defeated Martha, the divine pill I received greatly increased my stats. The system clearly displayed, the 4th fire ring has formed. The fire ring has reached level 4. The level 4 fire ring is strengthening the body and soul. Strength, agility, and stamina have increased. The reduced stamina debuff has disappeared. The reduced mana sensitivity debuff has disappeared. He continued to think, more accurately, what I've achieved so far has only now been activated thanks to this pill. Many things were enhanced, but the most prominent is the level 4 water resistance. Thanks to that, Wrath's attacks are nothing to me now. Since today is the last day of break, I wanted to spend some time in the garden. He thought while tending to the flowers. Wrath was still chattering away. You idiot, you have to dig deeper. Not like that. What are you doing? He felt even more annoyed. Why do I have to listen to this guy ramble on even when I'm gardening? Wrath continued nonstop. You have to use your hands so the stem doesn't break. His skills were not bad, making Ron marvel. How does he know so much about gardening? The blue flame kept showing off. When I was in the demon world, I always filled my garden with ice. The demons who saw my garden respected me a lot. But Ron paid him no mind, which made Wrath feel awkward. It turned out he had seen Martha standing right at the gate. She was rooted to the spot and also seemed very awkward, unable to speak. Ron already had a bad impression of her. Every time they met, she said something harsh. She's probably not here to cause trouble, is she? What is she doing here? Looking at Martha's blank expression, he thought to himself, what is she thinking? I thought she was very mature, but right now she's acting like a child. But that's not important now. Martha finally stated her true purpose. I want to fight you. Again, Ron Zieghart. He ignored her, not paying any attention. How pathetic. You still haven't admitted defeat. Martha awkwardly made an excuse. I'm not saying I don't admit defeat. I just don't understand why, so I came here to find out. Ron replied, what's in it for me? Martha's mouth fell open. He continued to tease her, but with a serious attitude. When the loser comes to challenge the winner, they should at least bring a gift, right? Martha found it hard to understand. Nonsense, why should I have to pay to fight? Ron replied calmly, but for me it's necessary. She was furious, biting her lip. It seems he has no intention of fighting at all. What should I do? Then she glanced around and her eyes fell on a flower bush. To get his attention, she wondered if she should step on the flowers. She probed, you must like flowers a lot. That's surprising. His answer shocked Martha. Not really. Hearing that, Martha could only exclaim, huh. He coldly said the heartless words, I don't like flowers. I don't understand why people like them either. Only garden for my mother. Seeing that her initial plan had failed, Martha was annoyed and pulled her foot back, abandoning the idea of stepping on his flowers. With no other choice, she left in frustration. Whatever. I'm leaving. Suddenly, behind them, a blonde woman's voice spoke up. Ron, there you are. He turned in surprise, muttering mother. It was Sylvia, Ron's mother. She continued, I was just wondering where you were. Then she noticed Martha. She said cheerfully, oh, is this your friend? A new friend from training. Martha realized it was Sylvia. The woman who left the family for a man and came back to save her son. You acted bravely for your child. Based on her golden hair and dark eyes, Sylvia knew immediately. You must be Martha. It's a pleasure to meet you. Ron tried to intervene. She's not my friend. Let me handle this. But his mother insisted, I just want to talk to your friend. She was extremely friendly, approaching Martha, taking her hand, and starting to ask questions. I heard you fought with Ron. Are you hurt? Martha was also surprised and didn't know how to react. I'm fine. Really? I was so worried, Sylvia continued. I heard that Daniel brought a talented child. You're also beautiful. You're so lucky, talented and beautiful, she said to herself. She asked the reason. But why did you come here? Martha stammered, I just wanted to talk to Ron. Then she tried to find a way to escape. I've said what I needed to say, I'll be going now. But Sylvia didn't give Martha that chance. She took her hand and led the uncomfortable girl, inviting her to stay and eat with them. I can't let Ron's friend go home on an empty stomach. Martha became even more embarrassed. What? She couldn't find the words to refuse, just hesitating. About that. Of course Martha was unsuccessful in refusing Sylvia. She had to sit down at the dinner table in the house with an extremely awkward attitude. Ron's mother happily brought out plates of delicious food and set them in front of the two. On the outside, Ron appeared cold, but inside, he was incredibly confused. What is this? Why is Mom being so friendly? Opposite him, she kept talking to Martha about Ron nonstop. Ron loves meat stew, so I always cook this dish, which made it hard for Martha to focus on eating. She sat down and asked questions. From here, their conversation began. You're a year older than Ron, right? Yes. You're 15. Yes. Do you have any difficulties in training? Not really. We have a great chef, but the meat here isn't as good as the meat at the main house, so it might be a bit different from what you're used to. Martha started to put a piece of food in her mouth. Sylvia gently touched her shoulder. She thoughtfully advised with a gentle gaze, chew carefully, don't get a stomachache. At that moment, in her mind, she imagined her own mother, who had also said the same thing. Chew carefully, don't get a stomachache, dear. That was before everything happened to her. She had happily obeyed her mother, preparing to enjoy the meal. Yes, Mom. She ate while feeling emotional and choked up. After the meal, Martha thanked Sylvia and left. It was delicious. Thanks you. Sylvia also saw Martha to the door and said goodbye, not forgetting to add, please take care of Ron. Ron saw Martha's timidness and whispered to Wrath, what is this? I was so sure she came here to fight. Did she eat something strange? The blue flame was no different from him, simply replying, maybe so. Martha walked home aimlessly, her mind full of thoughts. Ron must think I'm crazy. But her eyes were so much like my mother's. I couldn't refuse her. Thinking about it, she recalled the image of Sylvia. Her face, hair, and voice are all so different, but at that moment I felt the same way I did when I was with my mother. Martha remembered the feeling of being with her own mother. She began to recall what she had to go through. After my mother was kidnapped by those bastards from the White Blood cult and I was adopted by the Z-Hearts, I decided I would never lose until I found her, and I've kept that promise until now. Her mind felt shattered. But that day, I lost to Ron. I was adopted for my talent, but if I lose like that, I might get kicked out. Thinking about this, she grew more and more anxious. Father is a gentle person, but what if that's just an act? Then I have no hope of finding my mother. Martha gritted her teeth. I shouldn't have lost. When she got home, the butler was there to greet her. Lady Martha, you're back. You're later than I thought. Martha was surprised. Were you waiting for me? The butler continued, I was waiting to give you a letter that Lord Daniel wrote for you, my lady. Holding the letter in her hand, Martha was still surprised. Father wrote me a letter. The butler replied, yes. It was written right after the match. The content of the letter was as follows, Martha, congratulations on your first loss. A single loss doesn't make you a loser, so don't be too troubled. But think about why you lost, that will help you improve. I wanted to come and comfort you myself, but my mission is taking longer than I expected. I'm sorry for not being there for you at this time. The letter seemed to dispel her doubts about her adoptive father. The letter continued, I'm still looking for your mother. I haven't given up, so you shouldn't either. After reading these words, Martha coldly told the butler, tell my father that I will remember this, and I am very grateful. The butler quickly replied, yes, my lady. When she got to her room, she closed the door tightly, her mind racing. I lost so pathetically. It wasn't because I was careless or anything, I just lost. She gently took out a small knife. She stood in front of the mirror, and lifted the hair at the nape of her neck. Now I need to accept my defeat, and move forward. I can't check my humiliation. If I pretend it never happened, I won't learn anything. She was too ashamed to face her father. Strands of long hair began to fall to the floor. Martha finished cutting her long, black hair. Let's start over. I will do my best to move forward. I will leave this foolish and pathetic past behind. A great determination, along with a new look, helped her regain her spirits. She thought to herself, I will become stronger. The next day, when all the trainees gathered for practice, everyone was surprised by something. One male student couldn't hide his confusion. What's going on? Another male student replied, Lady Martha, what happened? It turned out everyone was surprised by her self-designed haircut. She came over and called out, Ron Zieghardt. I won't make excuses for what I did. But I will keep my promise. Ron asked back, promise? She turned away and replied coldly, I mean, the promise that the loser must obey the winner. That's all I wanted to say. I'm leaving. Leaving Ron sitting there, thinking to himself, that's surprising. Even if she made a promise, I didn't expect her to accept it so obediently. Martha must have changed in that short period of time. Even though she's young, that trait is very precious. But just as he thought that, he saw a different Martha. Why are you standing in front of me? Get lost, she snapped at another trainee, making him flinch. I'm sorry. This made Ron realize, it seems she's only like that with me. After some time, the new year finally arrived. Contrary to everyone's expectations, Martha still kept her word after the new year passed. Now, all of them had grown up, all wearing new outfits. Buren had become calmer and more reliable, and Runen's sword had become sharper than before, although her expression remained as blank as ever. As for me, risking my life in training had become a daily routine.